session order. We had possibility of 4 things on the agenda. We'll see how far we get. First up is talking about prioritization. Spencer asked us to go in and rank. It was a fairly easy thing to do. Go ahead. Tell us what we came up with.
Okay, John, so.
I just want to say I just submitted mine.
I was gonna say, I didn't know who it was, but I just got one in. So I had the presentation, but it was like static. And so we're experimenting with just sharing the actual results and being able to pull them up live right here.
So is this a Teams tool?
It's just Microsoft Forms.
It's just a Microsoft.
I didn't, for whatever in my desktop view, there wasn't a presentation format, but when I opened it on my iPad, there is, and it's like, oh, this is much nicer looking than what I put together.
Spencer, I don't see anything.
Okay, why don't you just open the, yeah. All right, you go to the next slide. So we started at a previous meeting to talk about the different, just kind of priorities, what the council wanted to be working on. It started with a discussion of hey, what do we want to do at the next meeting. I put together that list. I added to that list based on the feedback you all gave at the previous meeting. And then we wanted to start ranking them, not because this is what we're going to do next, but as a basis for conversation for you all to say, hey, at our next couple of meetings, this is what we'd like to do. So for example, under policy initiatives, the top one was comprehensive plan. That one is, in a matter of speaking, in progress. It is scheduled different events, and so it will come to the council once it's gone through all the other process. So there isn't necessarily something to schedule now. I don't have its schedule in front of me, but
it will be probably January, February to us.
Okay. Goes
to Planning Commission first. Actually, unless Jeff comes tonight, I'll mention where we're at.
Okay, he's not going to be here tonight, okay. So
basically, there's going to be one more public survey, then whatever, and then whatever is in that will go with the plan to the Planning Commission. So later, maybe a month from now, and there's a whole bunch of public hearings you have to hold, both there and here.
Okay. Next on the list, and John, if you are able to figure out how to get into it, let me know and we'll switch over.
Okay.
I'm looking at the live one south of the year update, and I don't think it changed the order of anything. Oh, slightly, but okay. They're all stuff we're working on anyway. So second was public comment policy, which we're going to try to tackle tonight. Committee ordinances is now number 4. So, but it's up there. And I think I've seen the emails come through, but I haven't had a chance to read them. Who sent updated policies like in the last week? Which one was it?
Convention.
Okay. Maybe I'll come back to that on the committee ordinances. Updating camping ordinance. We have a draft of that to consider tonight. Consolidated fee schedule. That's probably the next one that staff can be working on as a staff initiated project. Street performance and solicitation. So that is now number 8. In terms of priorities, let's see, I'm going off the updated list. Updated signage ordinance after that. I know we have a draft that we are working through. I don't have a timeline yet from Jeff on when will be ready to come to the council. but I can get that. Then street performance, 8, 9, events, ordinance and policy. I will say, that's another staff initiated one that, on the operational side, we just need to.
And I don't know what that
better.
is. Why don't I know what that is?
Because we've never talked about it here. So that was something that was on my list of things to do.
No, we did when it came up during the Pride events a couple of years ago, where somebody felt slighted that one group was able to have it and another one wasn't, or something. at the
Yeah,
same
that
time.
had to do with requesting parades, street closures for parades, because they wanted to do that, and I know our businesses don't necessarily like it.
So that's different than this.
It could be incorporated in part of this. So
Okay.
part of this is, I think, formalizing the process to approve events. It is basically, the department heads around the room take a look at the applications and provide feedback, but there isn't much teeth to us to be able to require certain things. So when we know certain events are coming, oftentimes they will try to skimp on, say, how many porta potties they bring or something like that. And we want to be in a position to say, no, we know you're going to need this many because of the toll it takes on our restrooms, our trash dishes, when we want to say, no, you need to have a dumpster. So put a little formality to it, so we think it's not stretching our city resources as much, and they're kind of covering their own costs for their own events. Some of the more professional events generally have it covered. Hood to Coast is kind of a breeze. 4th of July is, I kind of look at it like we're partners on that. It may not be our event, but we have a seat at the table for that. It's more, what's the dog one, Corgi
Yeah,
Days?
the Corgi Days.
And, or a soccer in the
Soccer in the
stand.
sand.
Oh, we're gonna have, 150 people there. Well, there's 500 registered plus their families, so.
Well, and they get their permits from the state, from state parks.
Yeah, nothing really goes out to businesses. It just
Yeah, it
springs
doesn't
on
come
everybody.
to us,
that-
and so, yeah, we need to have some sort of
My
guidelines.
understanding on that is the city has to sign off for it, because I know a copy of it goes to the city.
Yeah,
My salt makers thing,
they can't do an event in the city without kind of the city approval. They don't need approval necessarily to use the beach, but to hold an event in the city. So one of our requirements
makes
though is
sense
that
that we
they,
have-
so they come through us, but one of our requirements is you have to get a permit from the state.
So maybe part of that events policy is how communication happens to the community as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
About
that would,
upcoming events. We get it for the convention center, but we don't get it if they're not using that.
what would be really easy is to have a calendar on the website that gets added to it if there's a way to have push notification, so you can sign up for a
we're
notification every
getting
time.
into the weeds here.
Yes.
On the 9th out of 10 prioritized, but I think from the staff perspective, we are pushing that through because it needs more formality to it. And then last one was the public art policy.
The only thing I'll mention on the public art is that the TAC committee is working on those grants. So I don't know if there's anything that regulates what goes up, but they are
Grants for which one?
public art. So there's 25,000 in grants they're gonna give out for public art around the town. And I don't know if there's any kind of policy in place for where that goes or what the art can contain or anything like that. So just something to consider.
This came up when we were discussing the Chamber's trash can art program. And, yeah, I think at the time it would be nice to have a public art policy. So we're not handling one-offs like we did with the trash cans. But
Also, so we get some sort of coordinated effect on people. You don't have this kind of art and then that kind of art, and, there's no rhyme or reason to any of it.
Who'd you say is giving out the grants?
Say again?
Who'd you say is giving out the grants?
It's the
Tourism
Tourism
Advisory.
Advisory Committee. They have grants for events that bring in tourism and then for art.
So it's through the Visitors Bureau.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So
But the
Visitors Bureau
Tourism
was-
Advisory Committee actually voted on putting that on, and then they're gonna pick who the artists are. So, but it is through the
This
Visitors.
is new this year.
Yeah.
in the budget process, we split those out. if I
What kind
recall
of
correctly.
criteria does the TAC have on making their decisions?
That I don't know, because we haven't gotten that far. I just know I've seen that line item in the budget. They're planning on spending it.
It seems like
I
that
thought I saw it in
meshes,
there.
it seems like it meshes.
I think I saw it in the Thursday turnaround this
It
last
is,
week.
It
it's
was.
live now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll put our notes to talk to Josh about that. The nice thing is where we're in the driver's seat, and we're not creating a public forum, we can put what we want out there. I think you're right, Councilor Montero, when it talks about coordination and make sure it all goes together or something like that. I know one of the things that concerns me most about public art is when we are creating forums and anyone can do anything, that's where we want to have a tight regulations so that we're not getting something controversial or something like that.
And the other thing is, what are the strings that come along with it? Somebody puts up some public art, and who's gonna take care of it for how long?
Yeah, I think all of this probably needs to be worked out prior to them picking the artists.
Mm-hmm.
So we should know what
Yeah,
we
you're
want in the
right.
city.
That's why at one time the library made the decision not to accept any public art.
Well, that's not very fun.
They didn't want to get into all of those things.
Okay, does this bump public art policy up?
Makes it more urgent.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the urgent importance scale, right?
Right.
Okay.
I have a TAC committee on Wednesday. I'll get more details on exactly what the plan is, and I'll bring it to the next meeting.
I'm gonna put some notes down here, so in our department head meeting, you can talk with Josh as well.
Since we're taking, or at least considering 3 of these tonight.
Right.
We need to revote after we get those off.
Yeah, and I'm sure, so these aren't like our council goals that we set once every 2 years. As issues come up, we have a discussion, hey, where is this? And for future discussions, I'll figure out how to better ahead of time bring up the live stuff so we can be more easily making decisions right in real time. Hold on a second, let me try and get my notes here.
On the comprehensive plan, you have it as policy initiatives, but I think of it as a longer length project as well. Am I,
It's only because in the form you can choose one category, so.
got it, all right.
It's
There's nothing set with any of these.
different
Mhm.
because this is something you have to do or you should do. And it's a whole lot of work and it costs a lot of money.
Mhm.
So, it almost could be by itself and we won't, I assume, do it again for a while. We may look at it more often than every 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, these
But no, it's great to have it there and
The
so
way
it's
we're
something we
working
can
is just
check
to
off
help
the list.
is to help us prioritize what we're gonna do
And it
next
is
more than.
on
any
the
formality.
strategic plan, so.
Maybe that's
Do you
why
want
John
to
gave it
advance
to
it?
you.
It's not working.
Try again.
Oh, there we go. Okay, moderate length projects, and again, these were just kind of general groupings. So complete the cleanup of the old homeless campsite. I can send out an update on that. It's, the work on the campsite's been done. There's a little bit of work in the old recycling yard, a few things to clean up there, but it is cleaned up. It's had new gravel put in, and we intend to leave the fencing up for a while to just keep people out. Pavement preservation plan, we anticipate, when we say 1 to 3 months, that's when staff will be working on next year's budget, and so I anticipate as staff will be working on that and coming to the city council. Enter to a lease with SEPRD. That wouldn't take much time, it's just prioritizing it.
I have a question. In the current fiscal year, you're talking about the budget for the next fiscal year.
Yes.
In the current fiscal year, I assume we have money that is slated for pavement preservation or whatever else. How have we decided to spend that?
We haven't. That's what needs to happen.
So we still need to decide for this fiscal year.
I think, I think
Spend it on.
we,
It's
but,
kinda late.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing, we've had this plan for a while, and so I'm just trying to figure out, does that money, are we just gonna roll that into next year?
Yeah,
And do
it's-
stuff then?
so the
or-
most of the money in there, it can only be used for streets. We
Right.
get it through ODOT. And so I think we just budgeted the whole balance. So it could be whatever we need, whether it would have been this year, part of it or all of it, it's all there for whatever makes the most sense. Yeah, we just didn't have the staff in this last year to do the work to put it together. And so I anticipate, so it could be that we come to you with a prioritization, but we start bidding out some of the stuff over the winter, so the spring we start working, so it's not necessarily waiting for next year, but this is the timeline when we need to be making those decisions.
Can you execute on it now, or do you need decisions to be made in order to execute on the plan?
We need
We
decisions
have
made
decisions.
because there is more needs than we have funding for. And so there are gonna be, for lack of a better word, winners and losers when it comes to what roads get treatment. And so, that's where we want some council direction. We'll come with recommendations.
And if we can do that, because asphalt plants don't open until certain parts of the year, if we can do as much of the work ahead of time, then you do the execution ahead of when the plants open, then you're ready to go.
And what I'd like to be able to also look at is see if there are opportunities to partner with county and other cities and bid out some of the work at the same time. So those contractors, there's more for them to bid on. They can time their work. Head Start building sale or lease renewal. Their lease has run out. They need a new one. It probably wouldn't take too much. It's just, there's lots of other.
Did he finally contact you?
I haven't heard anything, no.
Are they gonna have federal funding?
One of the things we're trying to figure out is, I think it would be my preference to, instead of continue to lease the building to them. So the city owns the building. I don't think they pay anything for it, but they lease it. And I'd rather just sell it to them and have them take over ownership and maintenance. But I want to better understand how the city acquired it first. And that's what Kim's doing some research on. So as an example, if we received a federal grant to purchase it for Head Start, that's what I want to find the documentation on. If that's the case, that's very different if our residents didn't necessarily pay for it. If our residents paid for it, we're just turning it over, that may not change the decision, but at least you'd have that information.
If you look at what happened with the one in Warrenton, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It's on Kim's to-do list, so we'll follow up with that. And then reconsidering location for cardboard recycling. I don't think anyone is happy with the current location. There aren't good ones. I think the biggest, and maybe I'll just bring it up here, I think the biggest concern is that so many of the people using it are not residents of the city. And so this is an optional service. We are not required to do this. It's finding other places is difficult. And so one question can be, do we just stop the extra program? And we located.
Maybe we can stop it as a pilot program.
It's possible. We put it downtown for the downtown businesses to use, but they've been the ones the most upset with the location of it. And so part of it can be that each of those businesses can get their own recycling container from Recology.
Brian mentioned this in our meeting. I don't know if it would help at all, but the little shed that the chamber has behind the Visitors Bureau, he said they are not using that. And
Yeah, he'd like to put it behind, I already told him we're not putting it behind the Visitors Bureau. More than anything, I want to get rid of the green waste there and not add more
Yeah,
stuff
because
there.
that looks awful.
yes.
The one spot I have looked at, and I think I was waiting to hear back, and I'll follow up with them, was, That was for green waste, moving the green waste out of there, not cardboard. So the real problem is no one wants it close to them. And anytime we put it out of sight is when people start dumping stuff they shouldn't be. And so there's not a great solution. The only good solution would be to put it in a location where you have someone monitoring it. And we have way more bigger needs in the city for staff than for someone to babysit a recycling yard. So we're going to continue to work at it. It's nice that the convention center isn't happy with it, so they'll keep it on our radar.
Is there any room by the police department?
No, they are full. But they are staffed 24/7.
There you go. You got cameras.
Long projects. Illegal fireworks, so that's underway. Worldmark parking, that's good to see that where that came in. Again, I'm not looking at if anything's changed. Looks like it's staying about the same. North Wahana property abatement, I saw a trailer full of stuff on, I think, Sunday that was being carted off, so.
That's
Got-
it, the
got
two
some pretty big
chairs that are
dumpsters
sitting
now.
there, as if people are just
They
sitting.
seem to be actively working on
They
There's a
do,
big
they're
dumpster
pulling
there.
more
Yeah.
stuff out.
I don't even know if the
it.
sale happened or not.
I was told it did.
Yesterday.
Transferred.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And now the people next door need to.
There's a list.
Yes.
Ordinance recodification, that's probably, of everything on here, this is probably would be my highest priority. And so we are actively working on this now.
The organizations, there was a recodification organization at LOC. I don't know how many of these companies are out there that do this.
Yeah, they were at
But
the last one too.
I know you've been talking to
Yeah,
two.
I can reach out to
Is
LOC.
it US Code or something like that?
I think that's the one we already have a bid from because they have a partnership with LOC.
Right.
Got it, okay,
Right.
that would make
So.
sense.
It's good to see where prom engineering study is.
So
Measure
why is the
improvements.
church demolition on this one and the school demolition is on the next one?
Because this one is something that can be done in the next 3 to 12 months. School demolition is gonna be a lot longer because there's likely going to be mitigation work that needs to happen.
Okay.
And maybe realistically, when are we ready to spend $500,000 on to just not have a building anymore? That's just a hard pill to swallow.
And there's more or less an identified use for the church property. So,
If we had a plan for that property over there, then it would be worth pursuing more
and
quickly.
money to pay for.
Right,
Yes.
when we've got all these other parks that we're looking at doing stuff with, so.
And on the longer project, you'll see where that kind of came in. E-foil usage was a lower priority, but it's happening, and I don't think there's much work involved for the council. I think it's going through the process.
I'll provide an update on that one unless you wanted to at the end.
I'll let you.
Okay.
Airport hangar lease renewal, I also think this is a lower one. The lease isn't expiring soon, but the owners would like to lock in better terms, because the longer the lease is, the more valuable their hangar is. If there's 5 years left on it, it's not worth very much. If there's 50 years left on it, there's a lot more. I don't see any rush unless there's other requests. And then looks like water fluoridation was lowest. And again, this is just for conversations. Very long, North 40 park design. I'm glad to see that number one. We
Are we
actually
getting close on that design?
we had a meeting today with the consultants. Their timeline is early 2026 to have something to take to the public for public comment.
Wow.
Going down, let's see if anything changed. Quatat Park, city-owned watershed, school admin, and Cartwright Park. It makes sense that school admin comes
Yeah.
first.
Right.
And then the increase in the watershed is just on hold because there's only one property owner and they're not selling right now, so. Anyway, we had a good meeting today with North 40, and in fact, one of the things we talked about is we talked about what the council agreed upon, which is these are the core facilities we want, or amenities. Let's see if we can do the other ones. And they had some feedback on kind of best practices for sizes. So like, for example, like one of them was a dog park, and there are best practices for a minimum size for that. And so they can show how that does, or how that impacts the overall park. And so what we talked about is for some of these kind of extra things, see if we can fit, is they can do some of the programming, and we come back and we can have that discussion. Before we get the final 3 designs, we can know what will and won't fit. So we're not, they're not producing a final concept of something that doesn't really work. The other thing that, maybe I didn't remember or didn't know that Jeff was in the meeting, that he pointed out, is there is a reversionary clause on the deed. And I thought it was just more, it has to be used for recreation or a park or something like that, but it's very specific, it has to be used for youth sports. I'm guessing that is, they didn't want to lose the Little League programming, like stuff like that for Seaside kids, which I think what we're doing is consistent with that, but that could guide some of the decisions the council makes. And lastly, one thing I point out to them is the last time the council discussed this, 3 of you weren't on the council. So when they come back with some of the those programming decisions, that'll be a good time to get feedback from the 3 of you that haven't participated in that before.
Two things that I'm not seeing on here. I'm not seeing Estuary Park.
Yeah, it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
Estuary Park improvements?
Right there.
Okay. And then the other thing is, there is talk among Parks Advisory about trying to name that park. And so I wonder if there is a policy, as we get going, to come up with a policy of how we name things within the city.
We can add that to
Put it at the
policies.
bottom of the list, but
I will say,
probably be
it's
something we
not,
talk
I've
about.
already written one of those for a different city.
Okay.
It was a situation where they were preemptive. We knew there was gonna be a request to name something after, it was someone who had passed away just after coming back from service, but
Well, I know that there's
the
talk
exit
about
wasn't favorable, and it was like, let's
There's
get
talk
away
of
from the
what?
awkwardness.
There's talk about doing that for Sergeant Gooding
Oh,
at
that's not a
one of the
bad
parks.
idea.
So I think it'd be worth us talking about that before, February comes around.
Yeah, I may even dig up the old policy I wrote and send it out and see what you
So
think.
maybe add that on here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think
That could
I think
probably
the
go
committee can
close.
bring it up, but it doesn't get on here until this group says, yeah.
Right,
it's-
no, I agree. No, they've talked about naming the estuary park about for Neil Main.
I've heard that.
Be another good one.
Is Cartwright Park in a lot better shape than the other 2 parks? Like, I looked at that list and thought, we can't do much with the watershed land right now. We're kind of locked with where we're at, and the school administration building demolition is a lot of money and not a big plan. So, but is Cartwright Park, do you guys think it's at the bottom of the list because it's in good shape now?
I would say the playground structure is not bad at all, but the restrooms are in dire need of upgrades. I mean, my kids enjoyed the
The difficulty there
playground.
is do a whole bunch of stuff in Cartwright Park and then demolish the building, and that changes the whole.
Layout.
So I think
So they're intertwined.
very much.
I think from my perspective, there's 2 things. It needs some improvement and some love. But there are other areas of the city that are underserved by parks. And so the priority may be get parks there first and then work on improving the quality of other parks. That being said, when it comes to the restrooms,
There's a
there
safety issue.
there was a plan to build all new ones. That was from a previous public works director, but the staff that were in charge of it think that there is a much better alternative of doing renovations. They did the renovations in-house for Broadway Park this year, and I think we have budgeted for for Cartwright Park to get that done, but I will put on my list of things to check in on. So we can get that done sooner than later. And then I think the long-term plan for Cartwright Park is more to do with programming and how we would use it after the old school admin building is gone.
Are they gonna have to shut the park down because of any kind of toxic?
Oh.
When they tear the building down?
I think it depends on how it comes back. My guess would be that they can contain it to the building itself, but
There's actually quite a distance between the park, the area people use.
like in my mind, they will be the abatement of the hazardous
Would be a
materials. It'd be separate from the demolition of the building. So once they go to, and I think that can be contained in the building. Once they go to remove the building, any of those hazardous materials would already be gone. So it's just a regular demolition.
The topic of improving Quatat Park, is included in that the boat ramp?
I think they're somewhat separate issues, but if we are going to be looking at a redesign for Quatat Park, we need to be having that discussion of does it or does it not include a boat ramp, because it goes not quite down the middle, but pretty
Also
close.
the safety.
It's a very different design if it's the whole area versus,
I know Paul's talked about that being the
Yeah.
plan, is to find a different spot for it.
Exactly.
So it's more
And-
contiguous.
and he has one in mind, and everything's great except for it's right in a residential neighborhood, and so it's, there's still work to be done.
4th Street?
I hope not.
It is farther to the south. The city owns, it's one of these right-of-ways that goes to the river for one of the streets. And right now, the neighbors just park on it.
Oh, is that over on?
See,
Yeah,
Avenue, yes, I know where you.
see from Franklin.
so.
That's right, that's the one that
Yes.
we complained about not too long ago. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that is
Sure.
exactly. So,
Oh, that's terrible.
I think it would be great to have more usable space right there. But I also think we want to preserve good access for people launching boats. And,
They gotta have parking.
yeah, and we don't want to, run over a neighborhood with what's going on, so. Lastly, very long, okay, we did these. I just threw these on there because these were a list on the things. I don't think this necessarily changes anything. I just thought it was be interesting to see the results. I wish they were more in line, but you can kind of get a sense for the order. Now, these aren't all of our council goals. Some of them just didn't lend themselves well to this. I think also on the survey, when you're ranking, you're limited to like 10, and so I didn't put, I think I took off like the Pacifica project, because I mean, there's nothing for us to do other than go to
Oh,
the groundbreaking, so. It didn't merit a spot in the poll, so. There was a question about, I think Chris, you had a question about 2 different surveys. I think it'll be one survey. There will be one that we want to do regularly on kind of resident sentiment. There is a different council goal to kind of gauge current sentiment on the impacts of tourism, which we would definitely do with the survey. So it's one survey, but I mean, just for practical purposes, but it may not be something we do all the time. Although in our case, maybe that is something, a high enough priority that we do want to gauge the sentiment of our residents each time we do it, so.
Isn't that already being done?
It's already done.
Yeah.
We already have it.
Well, not as specific to Seaside.
I don't think so.
So I think we want to drill down in that a little bit more.
I thought it was taken of Seaside residents. We're talking about the tourism.
Yeah, they asked
But
about
that was
fireworks and all
not-
kinds of things.
That was not.
That was one that was happening anyways. This came out of our council goals. Maybe this is something we can at some point dive into, is make sure we understand what it is we're getting. Now, all that being said, I think the people that did the survey are scheduled to come and to present to the council. Do you remember which meeting it is?
Next one.
It might be. And so that will be a good time to see if that's providing the information you want.
Yeah, you wanna see a really specific survey, look at the survey that Yahats is putting out to their citizens. That's real specific.
Question number 1, how do you pronounce Yahats?
Exactly. Because I get it wrong.
That's how they determine if you're an actual resident or not.
Kitchen cats.
Any other, so maybe as, going back to some of these things, while we have a few minutes, we're taking care of 3 of these tonight. Is there some direction as we work, with the mayor and council president on the next couple agendas on, some of the things the council would like to see?
I think getting the boards, committees, and commissions off the table is,
Should we start then on that with the overarching policy and get that done first, and then once we're on the same page, then we can go through each of the other ones? Okay.
And I'm just gonna throw the question out that has come to me is, why are the Planning Commission and the Improvement Commission not included in this whole project?
I had a conversation with Jeff Laurie about the Planning Commission. He's like, do you want me to put something together? And in my mind, the role of the Planning Commission is very specific as laid out in state code and city code. And so that is their powers and duties, if you will. So what they are being asked to do is already codified.
But this isn't about powers and duties. This is about organization and how you do your powers and duties. You know, this is more like your bylaws in.
I guess what I'm saying, I think all of that's there, but
How you operate.
if there is something missing, that would be good. With regards to the Improvement Commission, I think the Urban Renewal Plan is the document that governs what their purpose is, what they are doing. And so for both of those, I guess my feeling is they are different enough that we can take up and have those conversations. But I think the work's already done on those, unlike the other ones.
If we want to look at them after we get the others in place, I think that's okay. But let's concentrate on the ones we know we need.
And there is certainly more discussions that need to happen on the Improvement Commission in terms of, we've been waiting for funds to start building up, but we should be looking forward to what those projects are.
Taxes, they're coming.
Well, and also we have the ability to bond against those, and so we can get improvements in sooner than later, which will help improve the south end of the city and should increase property values, which in turn circle back into the urban renewal fund. So there are some reasons to look at doing that and not just waiting to cash fund everything.
Does the budget committee fall in the same category? Is anybody looking at that?
No, again, just because that one is required by state law. And so I would say the same thing, if there are things you would like the budget committee to be doing that they're not doing, or change something there, let's have that
Same
discussion, but
Okay.
let's get the other ones going first.
I think we'll get a sense generically of operational ways that everybody could operate.
I think another piece that we haven't necessarily talked about on is ad hoc committees. Maybe we develop a structure of how those should be structured before, rather than just saying, hey, we've got a little group of people here for this one, and we've got a bunch of people interested here for this one, just to say, this is how we develop an ad hoc committee, and, then everybody else can be, give input and stuff, but we've got an actual structure that says, this is how this should be structured, instead of saying, well, I'm gonna add a few more people because they support my position on whatever it happens to be.
I think as long as we keep some flexibility so that we, depending on the issue, it can meet the needs of whatever the issue is.
Even if it's as little as repeating for every one of our committees, commissions, the public meeting laws have to be adhered to. And that needs to be in your bylaws or your charter or whatever else.
Well, and that can be addressed. The way I look at it is the overarching policy should be, that should have everything in there that every committee follows, and that their individual ones are only the parts that pertain kind of only to them. So they always defer back to this. So that's the kind of thing we want to,
Right.
we're not duplicating it.
Is there any kind of city policy currently for ad hoc committees?
I don't think so.
I think they're ad hoc.
The council determines that the
Oh, yeah.
committee is needed and specified, you know, for instance, for fireworks, who should be on it, so.
Didn't you
For
put a
ours, we
little-
left it really open, but then when the church one, when they tried to figure out the use for that church that we purchased, there was very specific members, the firework
The
one.
mayor
Right.
decided.
Like we have, like, I don't know that we have a list that says these are the
No,
committee
we just
members,
said
so if there was a
show
decision
up.
to be made, you know, these are the people that actually get to decide.
But
And-
remember, the committees don't decide, they advise the
Yeah, but
council.
they decide what they're going to advise to the city.
They decide the recommendation.
They
yeah.
decide on their
Right,
recommendation.
right.
The point being is we left ours wide open. We just said whoever wants to show up can show up. So,
For the e-foil thing?
yeah.
And it could be that maybe that's what works for that.
That's a community
That group.
discussion. kind of.
But maybe you guys will be working through it and say, we need a little more.
Well, we may get to a
Formality.
point where we need to say, okay, who are the 5 people that get to vote on what the suggestion is to the city council, you know? It's,
And it's been a while since I've reviewed the policy I drafted. I know it mentioned ad hoc
It
committees,
does have it in there.
but I don't know if it gave any structure to it other than the allowance for it, so. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't really have much time to discuss these other things, so, unless there's something you really wanna talk about now, we'll adjourn and take them up as part of the council meeting, since they're the only 3 items on the agenda anyway.
There's an item on, I can't go over it. Listed as public property, section B, item 1. I don't see how that can be worked out without issue. It's, no camping line, sleeping in, playground, sports fields in any area designated for recreational use. Lying down specifically is a common theme across each of those areas.
Give me the reference section again.
Private property, so 10204,
Public property, right?
public property, B1. It's restrictions specific to public
Camping
property.
ordinance.
Mhm. Because if it applies to one, it applies to all.
Yeah.
should it maybe be something along the lines of establishing a camp at?
Establishing a camp would
Clean that up a whole lot.
clean it up a whole lot.
I would say,
But to say you can't lay down on a sports field or in a
And
park,
soccer players are always laying down.
people.
I was gonna say, the next time someone gets tackled,
This is.
next time someone gets tackled in a football game, we're gonna hand them a citation. They got knocked out. Let me, if we wanna adjourn, I'll have a couple of minutes to, so I'm not going through it in real time, but let me digest that a little bit and see.
We may wanna.
Cause I think there's also some caveats later, that's what I wanna go see.
Yeah, we're,
But thanks for
not
bringing
under
it up.
any kind of time constraint about really passing any of these. So if we decide we need to look at it more, we can look at it more.
Maybe a good idea to push it down the road.
Well, I think the understanding was that tonight was gonna be a discussion about these and if they were ready.
Right.
On the agenda, it said something about,
Well, the motions are there.
Motions
but-
are a
I
possibility.
think
but
we'll
one of
always
the
put them
options is
there.
always to leave it alone,
Yeah.
or to have the discussion and bring it back with, you know.
Table it.
We always put on the agenda to give you the most flexibility.
Yeah.
So we're giving you the most you can do, and you can step back as far as you want.
Okay, we're adjourned. Call the city council meeting for October 13th, 2025 to order. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our recorder is absent tonight, so Mr. Spencer, would you call the roll?
Mayor Wright,
Here.
Councilor McVeigh,
Here.
Councilor Montero. Present. Councilor Pazalski,
Here.
Councilor Hoffman,
Here.
Councilor Binnicker,
Here.
Council President Morrissey.
Here.
All present. May I have a motion for approval of our agenda?
So moved.
Second. Go ahead.
Council President Morrissey and Councilor McVeigh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have two proclamations tonight. One is for the Friends of Seaside Library Week, and Councilor Montero is going to talk about that one.
I thought you asked me to do it.
No, she's going to read it.
I'm gonna talk about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't have to leave.
Well, yeah, I do, because I'm not doing this as a city councilor. As a citizen.
So to give you, is that there? Okay. As the chair of the Seaside Library Friends and Foundation, I want to thank the city for its recognition and proclamation. After many years of having separate organizations, Friends of Seaside Library and the Seaside Library Foundation, we decided to join forces in January of this year, becoming the Seaside Library Friends and Foundation. Friends of Seaside Library has a long history of supporting and supplementing our wonderful community library. The organization was a major force in fundraising for our library building, which opened in 2008. The foundation has provided an avenue for bequests to support the library long-term. Now, as Seaside Library Friends and Foundation, we provide both short and long-term investment opportunities for the community. Through book sales, membership, and donations, we fund library programming throughout the year, including the summer reading program and a variety of other experiences. Through the foundation, we fund long-term amenities and improvements. We invite library supporters to become members and/or donors. Mayor, you are one of our first lifetime members of Seaside Library Friends and Foundation, and that membership includes a couple of benefits. One is you get 2 book bags, and another is that you get your choice of 8 free books from our libraries, our store in the library. So here are your 2 book bags.
Thank you. I'll have to donate 8 more books in order to have room to get 8 more books.
I've left membership forms for the council at your desks. And as we are going into a membership drive, I hope you will lead the charge for our community to become members. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Montero.
I must acknowledge another board member, Jim Shipley, is our treasurer, and he's here tonight.
Thank you for joining us tonight. And I've asked Councilor Hoffman to read the proclamation.
Whereas the Seaside Library Friends and Foundation provides essential support that enables our library to grow and thrive, enhancing programs, expanding resources, and fostering a vibrant, inclusive space for learning and community connection. And whereas the Seaside Library Friends and Foundation raises funds that enables our library to move from good to great, providing the resources for additional programming, support for summer reading programs for all ages, and special events throughout the year. And whereas the work of the Seaside Library Friends and Foundation underscores the vital role of the Seaside Public Library as a cornerstone of our community, a place that promotes literacy, lifelong learning, and access to knowledge for all. And whereas the members and volunteers of the Seaside Library Friends and Foundation give generously of their time, talent, and resources, setting a powerful example of civic engagement and community spirit. Now, therefore, Mayor Steve Wright, Mayor of the City of Seaside in the state of Oregon, does hereby proclaim the week of October 19th through 25th, 2025 as Seaside Library Friends and Foundation Week. And during this week, encourage everyone to join in expressing appreciation to the members and the volunteers of the Seaside Library Friends and Foundation, and to consider supporting their efforts to ensure the continued excellence and accessibility of our public library by becoming a member. In witness whereof, he has set his hand and caused the seal of the City of Seaside, Oregon to be affixed on this 13th day of October 2025.
Thank you, Counselor. Also, this is Fire Prevention Safety Month, and most appropriately, we have our fire marshal here to introduce this.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilors. As said, it's Fire Prevention Month, and this year's theme is Take Charge of Fire Safety. So I've brought some battery safety tips for everyone. It's, basically sharing and getting the awareness out to our community. So when buying or using batteries, use only certified products. Look for the UL, ETL, or CSA marks on your devices. Avoid cheap off-brand chargers or batteries. You want to stick with the ones that come or are made for your devices. Charging safety, never charge batteries under your pillow, on your bed, or on a couch. Sometimes these thermal runaways can be violent and reactive, so you don't really want to be in close proximity to that. Unplug your devices once fully charged. You'd be surprised on how many manuals actually give a time limit and specify that you need to unplug those when fully charged. Keep batteries away from heat sources and direct sunlight. Do not use devices while charging if they are hot. Signs of battery trouble are swollen, cracked, or leaking batteries, and those should be disposed of immediately. Unusual smells, heat, smoke, or sparks are definitely red flags. If the battery starts to bulge, stop charging and dispose of the battery. Storage and transport tips: store batteries in cool, dry places. Keep batteries out of reach of children and pets. Disposal: do not throw batteries in the trash. Recycle at designated collection sites. And little information I found is the Recology this weekend, Saturday, October 18th, is having one of 4 a year, their free hazardous waste collection. You can find, that will be at Williamsport Road in Astoria, 1780. And for more information, you can find that on the county's website if you search household hazardous waste. And then if all else fails, some general rules of thumb are always have working smoke alarms, a fire extinguisher nearby, and a good escape plan if things go bad. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And I've asked Councilor Pasulski to read this one.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the state of Oregon is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our state, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire, and whereas home fires killed more than 3,600 people in the United States in 2023, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 344,600 home fires. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and the presence of lithium-ion batteries in many household devices can overheat, start a fire, or explode if misused, damaged, or improperly charged. And whereas most of the electronics used in homes daily, including smartphones, laptops, power tools, e-bikes, and toys, are powered by lithium-ion batteries. And whereas simple steps like the proper purchase, disposal, and recycling of lithium-ion batteries can help prevent environmental hazards and reduce fire risks in the home. Whereas the 2025 fire prevention theme, Charge into Fire Safety, lithium-ion batteries in your home, works to educate everyone about using these batteries safely. The campaign stresses how important it is to buy, charge, and recycle safely when it comes to lithium-ion batteries. Now, therefore, Steve Wright, the mayor of the city of Seaside and the state of Oregon, does hereby proclaim October 2025 to be Fire Prevention Safety Month and urges all people of Seaside to make sure they have educated themselves in using lithium-ion batteries in their home and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Seaside's Fire and Emergency Services. In witness whereof, he has set his hand and caused the seal of the City of Seaside to be affixed this 13th day of October, 2025.
Thank you. Okay. Did anybody sign up for public comment? I don't think so.
Touche.
And nobody online. Okay. Any counselor have a declaration of potential conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? Hearing none, I have a motion for approval of our consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Council President Morrissey and Councilor Binnicker. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to City of Seaside boards, commissions, and committees. We still have one vacancy on the Airport Advisory Committee, one on the City Tree Board, one on the Community Center Commission, one on the Planning Commission, and one on the Convention Center Commission. On the Planning Commission, we have a term expiration of November 1st for Christopher Rose, who has indicated a willingness to be reappointed to a new term. Council want to take any action?
Being that there's another vacancy, if somebody is interested, I would move that we reappoint Christopher Rose to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Councilor Psalski, Councilor McVeigh. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Christopher Rose is appointed to a new term. I believe they're 4 years. Okay, no unfinished business. Moving on to new business. Resolution 4080, resolution of the City of Seaside, City Council of the City of Seaside amending our rules of procedure. Spencer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We'll go through this. This is one of these small things, but I think it's a low-hanging fruit that we can take care of, and an issue that many of us weren't aware of until Councilor McVeigh actually read the policies that everyone else missed. So, so thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Anytime.
So tonight, the purpose of the resolution tonight is to amend the council's rules of procedure and conduct. In its current version, it's about, I want to say 6 months old or something like that, maybe a little older than that. And so we want to limit motions to reconsider to be at the same meeting before the final adjournment, which aligns with the best practices and legal issues. So for our public that's here, for some background, our current council policy allows for an item to be reconsidered, language is at the same or the next regular meeting. So that would mean if the council voted on something at any point later in the meeting, a councilor can vote to have that reconsidered. However, the language that the rest of us all missed was it currently states or at the subsequent meeting, which means at the next meeting, any councilor, I can't remember the current language, if it's any councilor or any councilor that's voted in the affirmative, can ask for it to be reconsidered. And I'll get to why that's a problem. And this is especially concerning when the council is dealing with quasi-judicial land use decisions. There's some other practical considerations. And so we also reviewed the League of Oregon Cities model rules in this area. So the key reasons for the amendment: first, legal compliance. So there could be violations of due process and state law, especially for land use decisions. So you can imagine when there is a rezone and the council makes a decision, or let's say you are the appeal for a planning commission, which we've done a couple of those recently, you make a decision that should be final, but it's problematic if it's not truly final until one more meeting to see if anyone brings it up for reconsideration. Especially problematic, especially on land use issues where the clock starts ticking on things like their right to appeal to LUBA and other things like that. It says here, once an action takes effect, reconsideration may be moot or legally questionable. So you approve it, and let's say a developer starts working on their approved project, and then we revoke that 2 meetings later. Or let's say the council votes to approve a purchase, and we sign the contract the next day, and then the council changes their mind at the next meeting. I think that's where it's problematic. There are recourses for the council to change their mind, but there's a formal process to that. It's not simply a continuation of the same vote from the previous meeting. So it provides more clarity and for your actions, reduces confusion, and again aligns with best practices. So here is kind of what the new language states. So only a member of the prevailing side may move to reconsider. So if in our case, if it was 4-3 in favor of something, only one of those 4 who voted in favor of it could bring it up to be reconsidered. Any member can second the motion. The motion to reconsider can only be made once. I think that's in line with the purpose of that is if the council's already decided and then they've already decided again at the meeting, we don't need 3rd and 4th tries to reconsider. Must be made before the final adjournment of the same meeting. All of the rules remain unchanged, and then this resolution tonight is effective immediately. I don't anticipate we have any pending things. To our knowledge, it's only ever been used once, or we were only made aware of it because of that. So the requested action tonight is to read the resolution by title only, followed by a motion to adopt. Happy to answer any questions.
Counselor? So going back to the one recent memory where this has actually come up, should this go through, what would be done in the case of a decision being made and within the immediately following couple of days, new information comes to light that would have affected potentially the outcome of that decision, since that is in fact what happened last time? Is there a different process that we would go through? If so, what would that be?
I think the process would then be the same as any other agenda item. So any 2 counselors or the mayor or myself can add items to the agenda. So in your case, if you receive new information that caused you to change your mind, you would find one other co-sponsor, if you will, to put it on the agenda, and then the council would consider it at that time. However, part of the consideration would be what has changed since the last meeting. Have we entered into contracts since the last one? Has someone been granted some sort of rights by their land use approval or something like that? When it comes to land use, I'm assuming, without looking into it, that your ability to change your mind later is much more restricted than, say, an expenditure or something discretionary like that. And so it would be, I guess, to summarize, it would be the same as any other action. You just have to consider whatever the new information is.
Sounds like you're leaving the motion to reconsider at the current meeting still in the council rules.
Yeah.
What would that look like? So we move on from that agenda item. Would that just be in the comment period, or how would that happen?
I think, I mean, I have I have rarely seen something like this used. Sometimes I've seen it used when a counselor comes late, like is delayed at coming to the meeting, and there's a feeling on the council that the vote earlier in the meeting is not representative of the nature of the whole council once they're there. It could be, again, more information comes to light during the meeting. I think I've seen some where the council makes a motion, they vote it in favor of it, and there was a misunderstanding from a counselor as to what the motion was or what exactly they were voting for. And when they receive clarification, they would like to reconsider that. And those are like sometimes, within a couple of minutes after the initial one. And so I think it provides some flexibility for either mistakes or new information or things like that. I think that's the main reason it would be used.
I could see it coming up where we're deciding priorities of things that we want staff to work on, and we find out that something's come up, somebody's leaving, whatever it happens to be, or maybe we want to change what that priority is. And so it's that decision at that time.
I don't see how you will, what the occasion that you just stated, how that could actually happen in terms of new information being brought up. Because if a motion is voted on, at that point, discussion ends. And who has the opportunity on the council to say, well, wait a minute, here's some new information, et cetera, to get a person who has already voted in favor of the motion to reconsider their vote? Because there's no opportunity for that kind of discussion. That discussion could be very justly ruled out of order by the chair if someone were to say, wait a minute, I still want to talk about this, or I want to bring you some more information.
And maybe it's not new information. It may just be regretting your decision or second thoughts or things like that come up.
And again, it has to be somebody that voted for it
Yes,
in the
I
first
understand.
place, not against it.
I've got, here's an example. Let's say we decide as a council that we're going to focus on the North 40 Park. And news comes from staff that our public works director is leaving. Maybe we change the priorities of what we have the staff working on until that's taken care of. So that would be new information we got at the end of the meeting that would want us to reconsider the direction that we're giving staff.
The one thing I would say to that is I think the intent of this is typically more formal decisions.
Sure.
When we're talking about priorities or general staff direction, I think there's some built-in flexibility. I think it's more.
It was a
formal
low-hanging
decisions
fruit
made.
to come up with an example.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the most times
And
I
don't think
think I may have only seen this once or twice in my whole career, and it's typically when someone has realized that they voted in favor of something they were actually against, and it was a misunderstanding of the motion that had been made.
My understanding of the reading is you can reconsider if you're in the majority, but that doesn't have to be yes, affirmative. It can be majority no or majority yes. Is that true?
Yes, I would say that's true.
So it
if
has-
if there was a motion, well, I guess if a motion failed, I'm trying to walk myself through it. So there can be a motion not to do something, and someone who had made that motion could change their mind. Yeah. If there was a motion to do something and it just failed, I guess I would say that's still the prevailing party. And so someone who voted no on something, could bring it up to say, I've thought about it some more throughout the meeting. I'm having second thoughts. I'd like to reconsider it.
Yes.
Again, I don't think it's used very often. I will say from my perspective, the more important thing is not to have the reconsideration at the next meeting, because that just throws a lot of questions the questions really aren't finalized. The decisions aren't finalized until the next meeting to see if someone requested to be reconsidered. So I think my highest priority is to remove that. Whether or not you want to preserve the reconsideration at your own meeting really is up to you. I always look for what gives you the most flexibility. But if the council doesn't think it's appropriate or you'd rather have it more finalized, that's totally your call.
Is there a way to still leave it at having the ability to bring it up at the next meeting, provided whatever the decision is neither quasi-judicial, land use,
Right.
and hasn't, we're issuing a check to some organization. The check hasn't been issued yet. No action has been taken by the staff. New information comes to light between the two meetings. It sure seems reasonable to be able to readdress it there.
And I would say that's where you have, if a second counselor wants that, it's on the agenda and you can act on it.
Which would be required for the reconsideration anyways.
No, not according to our policy. Right now, the policy, any one person can bring it back up at the next
I
meeting.
needed to have a second on it.
You do need to have a second on it.
Second, but they don't have to be in the majority.
That is true.
Correct. which
It
is
still has
what
to have a
that-
second.
You don't need to have a second to place it on the agenda to talk about at the next meeting because
I thought you had
But
to
to-
have
but
two
to-
A
counselors.
reconsideration doesn't take a second, does it?
No.
No.
I guess
Well,
I'm
can I share what it says in Robert's rules? Okay. So, revising a previous decision, motion to reconsider. Who can make it? A member who voted with the prevailing side can make this motion. When to make it? It must be made during the same meeting or an adjourned meeting. I don't know what that means. And before any other business is taken up. So adjourned meeting, that's before any other business. How it works. A member makes the motion to reconsider. If seconded, the assembly discusses the original motion again and a new vote is held. Some motions, like those that have already been acted upon, or motions to elect or expel someone, cannot be reconsidered. So we could say that we could have reconsideration, and except for certain decisions, one being land use decision, and anything that has already been acted upon.
And I like the idea of not having it or having to do it prior to another agenda item. And the main
Yes.
reason is just a mistaken vote. So if you think you're voting yes on something and it means something, or no on something that means something else, that's the primary reason I see.
But
this.
that's
I don't
that's the
understand where the
adjourned
comma is.
meeting. That's the adjourned meeting before any other
know
business is
about that.
taken up.
I feel like it needs to be in that meeting because otherwise the chance of reconsideration could come at any time. It's our responsibility to get the information we need to get.
No,
to
it
make-
says that the current meeting
but-
or the next meeting, there's a limit.
I'm asking.
No, I'm just
for-
saying what I'm more comfortable with
Okay.
is to have it in that meeting
It-
because you
it
can
could,
always
but
find
how
more meeting.
Has it?
What's that?
It could, but how often has it?
How often has it ever been brought up?
I mean, in the
It hasn't been common.
better than a decade that I've been coming to this meeting, it's happened exactly once.
Right.
So although it can happen, the realistic chances of it actually happening are vanishingly rare.
So here's the other thing, as just that hadn't occurred to me before, but some of this is coming out through the discussion, and that is one of my concerns with the waiting for the next or allowing it at the next meeting is that there's no notice to the public that it's an agenda item, and in trying to be transparent, we try to vote on things that have been the public is made aware that it's going to be an item of discussion. So let's say we had a whole bunch of public input and you made a decision, but then if someone waited to the next meeting and no one knew it was going to be on the agenda, I think that would be problematic and may even be in violation of the open meetings laws by voting on something that's not on the agenda.
You know,
Unless we wanted to put on the agenda the possibility for reconsideration of all the items from the previous meeting.
it had said that our rules of conduct were attached, and I didn't find them there, so I can't get this off the top of my head right now. But I believe that our rules of conduct do also allow for anyone who has voted in the minority on a motion to, after the vote, express why they voted the way they voted and whatever information. I'm not real clear, but I
Yeah,
do
it's in
remember
there.
that.
That's in there.
So I guess that would be the opportunity for a member of the minority to bring new information to a member of the majority to see if someone would then ask for a reconsideration. Am I making sense?
Yep.
Yeah, and I go back to, and Councilor Montero, just so you know, at the end of the staff report, the current policy is linked as the attachment, so the packet wasn't an extra.
Oh,
Long, so
yeah,
you
I
just
didn't
click on
see
the
the
link.
link, I'm sorry.
Again, I go back to, there is nothing stopping anything coming back that legally can come back. All you would need is 2 individuals to put on the agenda for the council to consider. So there is a way to do it, but I think it is a cleaner process to have it as an agenda item on there, and gives the public fair notice to come and attend if they choose. And it's a new action by the council, not a changing of the decision from 2 weeks ago. So in my mind, it is just about as easy to do. The only difference would be that you would need a second person to put on the agenda. But if if it were a split vote, I wouldn't think finding a second person would be difficult if there was someone interested in changing the decision.
So the process is still there, it's just not reconsideration. It's just not called reconsideration.
It's a new agenda item.
Right.
You could even call the new agenda item a reconsideration of the previous thing.
Yeah.
It's just different than, I think a reconsideration in this sense is the original vote is now changed,
Well,
which is confusing.
I think if, I like the best practice and model and recommendation from, other Oregon cities. I like to keep the reconsideration in the same meeting.
I would like to keep the motion to reconsider in the same meeting, but even more specific, prior to the next agenda item.
I disagree with that point.
Disagree with that as well.
Vehemently.
Within the rules, we already have a member may change his or her vote prior to the next order of business. So you can make the change.
I think
That's
the problem
changing
is,
your vote, that's not reconsidering.
the
No.
problem is, I
And
think
it
we usually,
also
right after the
to-
vote, move right on to the next item.
Yeah. So you got to make it quick. The thing Councilor Montero was talking about, you are not allowed to explain your vote during a roll call vote. I don't know that it says anything about, you can say a reason why
Not during,
afterwards.
but
Yeah.
afterwards.
But you can always do it during comment period too. So obviously, you could do it sometime. I like the idea of removing this, keeping it within the same meeting, not necessarily immediately, but within the same meeting if something would come up. It's still on the agenda. It's been noticed already, so there's no issue with it. And we have the means to be able to put it on the next agenda if we need to. And it's pretty simple. I don't think I've turned down anybody's request to put something on the agenda if there was somebody else that said to go along with it. It just happens at the moment that the mayor's listserv is sending out one small city is revising theirs, and so I'm seeing a lot of different ones, and most of them do say you can reconsider in the same meeting. There have been a couple that look like they've not been revised for a long time that said the next or the next. I think that's because that was originally League of Oregon Cities model, and people just haven't changed. So I'm fine with this rule change.
Spencer had a comment.
Yes.
Just one last
Spencer.
comment, maybe to address Councilor Morrissey's
Get back here.
suggestion or concern, and that is, if you did want to put some limit on it within the same meeting, is you could put the limit that it needs to be brought up before the end of the business item. So we have unfinished business, new business, with the idea being, if you want to reconsider, bring it up. Once we get to staff comments and city council comments, oftentimes that's when the public's left. And so that if I think to your point, to try to do it sooner than later, you could, that's a clean break in the meeting, if you will, to try to keep it sooner to the original decision. But that's just a suggestion.
But it's during staff comments that you might learn more information.
I would hope that staff will, like, if we know the information during the discussion, we brought it up. But you're right. I mean, at any point, we could get new information.
I think as the resolution is written, it gives us the most flexibility at this point. If it becomes a problem, then you can add a restriction with another resolution.
I guess I would say that given the ability to bring it back in a very transparent way, functionally the same action under a different name, by putting it on the agenda for the next meeting, I think I can be persuaded to go along with this. So I think that limiting it to before the next item on the agenda is
Way too
a little
short.
too severe and doesn't allow any flexibility. But by the end of the meeting would certainly be reasonable.
I move to
Okay.
read Resolution 4080 by title only.
Second.
It's Councilor Pasalski and Councilor Binnicker. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Spencer?
Resolution 4080, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seaside, Oregon, amending the rules of procedure and conduct for council members to revise Rule 4-4.10 regarding motions to reconsider.
I didn't open the floor to public comment. Anybody out there wanted to say anything about this? Since you're mostly staff, we have one from the public. Okay. May I have a motion to adopt?
I move to adopt Resolution 4080.
Second.
Councilor Pasalski and Councilor Binnicker. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to do I need a
Should we reconsider?
break? Moving on to Resolution 4081, adopting a revised public comment policy.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is another issue that I think staff has seen where there have just been some confusion on expectations. And so adding a little formality to it, I think will help those who wish to express public comment and set the expectations on how this will work, both for staff and for the council when we receive those. So for the public tonight, the council is considering the adoption of revised public comment policy for our council meetings. There was one previously adopted in February 2022. As I read through it, a lot of it I think was focusing on how the council was going to be using the public comments in light of new virtual meeting requirements coming out of the pandemic. So the purpose is to promote engagement, transparency, and accessibility for all members of the public who wish to provide comments. So, scope of the policy, this applies to public comments made during regular city council meetings. This does not govern public hearings. Those are conducted under separate rules under state law and city code. And public hearings are also designated for specific agenda items rather than public comments, which are general comments. So the key changes, and so the first, planning commission references are removed. I have a separate slide on that, so we can talk about that. This clarifies that public comment is not a time for questions, responses, and back and forth discussion. I think this is often something that the mayor clarifies or states at the beginning of public comment, but this puts it right in there, and this is something that we can share on the website and other places where people will register for their comments. This is something new that I've put in there, and this is really throwing out there as an idea for the council to talk about and see if this is something you want. It allows council and staff to provide brief clarifications or responses at the conclusion of public comment. All written public comments must be submitted electronically via the city's website form, and there's an explicit distinction between public comment and public hearings, which we did do some of the work on that to distinguish those two within your council guidelines, which this is consistent with. So intent and limits of public comment. So public comment period is for the council to hear and receive feedback, not for dialogue, debate, or immediate action. Councilors will not engage in discussion or take action on item raised during public comment at the same meeting. Again, going back to the transparency issues, it should be, there can be a discussion of, hey, we'd like to discuss this or put this on the agenda for the next meeting, but there should be an opportunity for the public at large to know that the discussion will be happening. Any discussion or action will be scheduled for a future meeting after proper notice. And chair may request staff to provide clarifications or brief responses to ensure accurate information. So the policy identifies 3 methods of public comment. The first is in person, which we do at the beginning of each meeting. And I've even put language in here that says this is the preferred method. Maybe I'm speaking for the council, so you can correct that. But in my mind, I think the preference would be that someone's here providing comment, and that the intention for a written public comment is for those who can't attend the meeting, or maybe whose comments would exceed the 3-minute limitation. They want to provide that to you. That being said, even with identifying this as the preferred method, the language in the proposed policy says, but nothing will restrict someone's ability to submit written comment, no matter what their reason is for doing that, rather than in person. I think it was just trying to encourage people to come in person when possible. Written comments must be received by 12 p.m. on the meeting day. They must be submitted through the website or delivered to the city recorder.
Should we put something in there to be included in this meeting's information? Otherwise, it just says you can't comment after 12 p.m.
It says you can't submit written comments.
But they can submit written comments any time, but it just won't make it there.
Yeah, I guess if that's not clear, I thought I'd have to go back and look.
I think there's a phrase that if it doesn't make the deadline, it's
goes to
put
the
in
next
the next
meeting.
meeting. I think I saw that phrase.
Okay.
And I think the form says, and one of the reasons we want the form rather than just an email is the form says, which meeting is this a public comment for?
Okay.
So that it's clear. So this is specific that if you want to do a written public comment, do it from the city's website, because it asks some of those questions just for the city council or for some other meeting. The other part of that is we often get emails, hey, I think the city should be doing this. And for staff, we're like, is this, and it came in on Monday. Is this a public comment for the meeting? Is this just a statement of what I'd like to see? Sometimes residents will email counselors, hey, I'd like to see the council doing this. And someone will say, hey, will you put this in the packet? And we're just not sure, is that the intent for public comment? And so the goal would be if a resident reaches out to you and says, hey, here's my concerns, you can say, great, come to the meeting, or put it in writing. Here's the way to do that.
And I have to say that in the 2022 it's called the directives. It was very helpful that in there, the actual link and phone number are put into the policy, the directives, so that people reading it know where to go and how to find it. And I would like to see that included in what we're replacing it with.
I'd have
Rather
to go
than just
explore-
say you have to use the city website, put the link in there.
I guess we can do that. The only question would be like, when we just changed our website, all the old links are different now than the new links. And so I think from an operational standpoint, we want all of those available and easy to find, but we don't want to amend the resolution every time the address, the URL changes or something like that. But we can include that if you want.
Then I would suggest we make it really easy for people to find it on the website. It should be on the splash page. It should be someplace up front. I have difficulty maneuvering around our website and finding what I want to find.
John and I were talking about just that issue today, so we have the same concerns. Total comment is capped at 45 minutes. That was pre-existing, so just bring that there. If that's something you want to change, you can. Anonymous comments will be disregarded, and then there is language. I think this comes over from the previous one as well, that there are accessibility accommodations available, and we'll make every effort if they reach out and contact the recorder ahead of time to find out what is the method of comment that does work for them if there are any concerns or issues with that. So let's talk Planning Commission. Some of you had some questions about that. I provided an email today back to you.
In the document you sent, going over all of this, there is a section it goes through different ways to submit the written comments, and at the end, after saying that, one of the reasons somebody might do this is because maybe they can't make it in here for whatever reason. It says, in either case, the individual must verbally state their name and city of residence into the microphone at the time of submission.
Okay.
Somebody's mailing in their comment because they can't be here. How will they meet that qualifier?
So there,
I think what he's addressing is the way that this is put together, the current one, you keep mixing public and written instructions.
where can you give me the exact reference? Because
It's the last paragraph before distribution.
I made several changes on that for that reason, because I was trying to get clear.
Yeah.
It's section 2, written public comment,
And the last bullet.
right before the last bullet.
Of course,
Right before
I have
distribution.
I have the old packet. Give me one sec.
Yeah, I saw that in several places. You have distribution. Again, you've mixed together
Okay,
the
so
different methods.
okay, so let me go through. So, looking at the policy itself. So, submission methods. There are 3 submission methods. 1, electronic. So, if you want to submit it electronic, it goes through the city's website. The second is hard copy. So, you can mail or deliver your written comments to the city recorder, clearly indicating that the document is for public comment and which meeting you want to submit it to. Third is, and this is kind of a rare scenario, this is in-person delivery during a meeting. So let me read it. Individuals attending the meeting in person may submit written public comment materials during the designated public comment period of that meeting. This may include supplementary written materials provided as part of speaking during public comments. So oftentimes I'm here speaking. Sometimes it's just come to our open house or something. Here's some flyers. The second is written testimony submitted without speaking for distribution to the council. So the idea there is, I don't like public speaking. I want hand deliver it. But like anyone else coming, at least give us your name and city of residence.
So would that preclude them from handing something to Kim and say, can you distribute this, please? Because I
Or
know we've had
dropping it
that
off at
before
the
where they've dropped something.
anonymously.
Yeah, so I think under this, we would say for transparency, at least come and say, I'm so-and-so, I live here, and I'm submitting written comment on this item or whatever it is.
So would that include the person that wants to give us personal invitations to an event, that instead of laying it on our desk, they would come to the podium?
I would think so.
I think that's
Say their
kind of,
name
I think
and-
that's
Pretty
more of
much
a,
do that anyway.
I think it's kind of also a protocol to you tell us how you'd want to have those. So often those aren't really public comments. Sometimes it is public comment. Sometimes they just leave something. So I'd say just give us direction how you want to handle that. So I think, and I see what the issue is here, I think the next part is supposed to be for the two bullet points, and just the indent is in the wrong spot. So let me read it.
I see
In
that.
either case, the individual must verbally state their name and city of residence into the microphone at the time of submission. These materials will be distributed to the city by the city recorder during the meeting. So yeah, shift that paragraph to be under the in-person delivery during the meeting. So I see the confusion.
I did, just as you're going through there, under flexibility, under number 1, the in-person public comments, there's just a misspelling there to take care of.
Yeah, let me actually, since it's not in my packet, give me 1 sec to actually get this open. So I'd say any changes.
Oh, the chair.
If the council is
Char.
inclined to approve it
Char.
tonight.
Spencer, since we're talking about the delivery of the public comments, one thing that we have the ability to do on the website too, or do you have a slide for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me come back to these. Well, actually, let me come back to that. Let me just get this open. All right, it's not in my recent, so let me keep going and we can come back to it. So counselor and staff engagement. So this is something new, and it's something I've heard from many of you from time to time of maybe not exactly happy with our current process. And I understand you have residents that come, say something, and you're holding your comments till the end of the meeting when they're no longer there. Or they say something we all know is inaccurate and we want a clarification or a correction or just something, again, not to engage with them, but maybe to set the record straight or just a quick response or something along those lines. So, so what I've added into the policy is that counselors may ask follow-up questions for clarification, but not to engage in dialogue. So if someone's up here, thank you, John. If someone's up here and you don't have the foggiest clue what they're talking about, hey, hold on a sec, where are we going? I think that would be helpful to public comment. The chair may permit brief responses either by counselors or by staff to clarify misunderstandings or correct inaccurate statements. And they have, maybe this is a different issue, but written public comments are distributed to the council and city manager prior to the meetings and referenced in the minutes. So one thing we added here, and this was kind of after the fact as we were talking about this, is the easiest thing to do would be to add all of your email addresses to the public comment form. So you receive them the exact same time Kim receives them.
I thought that was already happening, so.
No, they go to there, she sees it and forwards it, which causes a delay and extra work for her, so.
May I make a small suggestion? Given that written comments are not included in public distribution, apparently, maybe we should take the word public off. If they're not going out to the public and being able to be seen by them. I know I had a constituent this week come and talk to me about the fact that a comment that they had submitted at for the last meeting was not made publicly available without submitting a specific request for any and all comments that may have been submitted. And they were upset about this. That they couldn't find it in the minutes after the meeting, they couldn't find it ahead of time in the packet. If they're not actually going to be public comments.
I would have to agree with that. If people make verbal comments, they're included in the video. So if someone submits a public comment through our form, I believe they should be attached to the minutes as part of they're a part of the public record.
At the very least.
So before I actually got to the drafting mode, that's what I thought about was that the public comments were better placed in the minutes rather than the packet. And just to be clear, the real issue with the packet is we put out a packet on Wednesday night. We include all the public comments we received. Then we receive some more on Thursday. Do we amend the packet or not? If we receive some on Friday, do we amend the packet? If we received over the weekend, sometimes we amend it, sometimes we don't. Sometimes comments come in on Monday and you get a hand copy. So there is the original packet, the amended packet, the hand delivery. And sometimes it was, I heard someone submitted a comment on this, or I read it in the packet. I want to submit a rebutting comment to their comment, and that's, to me, that's not the point. It's supposed to be a one-time comment, not a debate with the public. And so that's where I thought it better belonged in the minutes. And frankly, we can still do that. It was just doing more research on seeing what is common amongst other cities, and it was more common for them for the chair to acknowledge the comments we received. We've received comments from these individuals on these topics, and then to put the whole thing in the minutes and to say that they are part of the public record, and anyone requesting to read them may request them.
I think
that was the more common thing, but if you want it in the minutes, you can.
Can't you make them available on the website but not in the minutes?
I think, although it feels like it's the same thing. I mean,
Hey,
Does
can I ask for
anyone ever-
clarification on, so for this example that you said, did they provide a written to us? Where did here at the desk?
No, they emailed it in through the public comments.
Okay.
It was even referenced by somebody who had made a specific request for any comments that had been submitted, and yet it didn't come up in the packet. It didn't come up in the minutes that have been released since. Their comment has not been publicly available.
and I think that's the issue with, they've never been in the minutes. They've always been sometimes in the packet, sometimes not in the packet, depending on when they're received. And that's why we want to just clarify that.
The problem with adding them to the minutes is then you give preference to written comments, because the actual comments for people, the preferred method cut into the chamber, are not actually in the minutes. There's just a link where you have to go find them.
Watch the video.
So
And
that's
they're-
why I
and
think
they're
it
not-
makes sense to have them in a separate place, but on the website
That still
available, but
makes
not in the
them
minutes.
available, though.
What?
Whereas
They
that
should
still
be-
leaves them available, though, where
Yes.
the written ones are not.
Well,
They
they should be
should be
available,
available.
just like the video is available.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which is why having them attached to the minutes at the very least would come into play.
Well, but then we get giant packets of all the comments, and I think it's a distraction from just the minutes of the meeting.
Not if they're, we're going to get a packet with the comments for our upcoming meeting. And the deadline for those comments is noon. So if you're putting the packet out on Thursday, and we get all the public comments that have accumulated to that point, then there are more comments that come in Friday, and again, the deadline is noon on Monday, it would seem that instead of having to update the packet Friday and then again Monday, you just wait till 1 o'clock on Monday and update the packet.
I think what we're saying is it doesn't belong in the packet. It's better in the, if we're gonna do anything, it should be in the minutes because it's the record of the meeting.
But how am I going to know that it came in before noon on Monday if it's not in my packet?
You're gonna receive the email copy right when they come in. When we put the minutes together, so after this meeting, we'll put the minutes together that you'll approve next time. The ones included will be everything that came in prior to noon on the day of the meeting.
Okay, and that'll give the public the opportunity to read them.
If you want them included in there, or they can be referenced by name and subject, that's really a preference as to what you as the council want. I just think the minutes it should be what's the record of what transpired at the meeting, and part of that is what were the public comments received, whether in person or written, and so it should be something after the fact, not before the meeting. I think that's the main thing I'm trying to.
This whole thing has made me think a lot about our state goal number 1, which is public involvement. Granted, that is for a priority on land use, but the way the state looks at it is public involvement in everything, and we give accessibility to the public. We give as much opportunity for the public to be involved and to give us their opinions. And so I think that we need to take that into consideration and make sure that not only we get to have the opportunity to read public comments, but that the rest of the public, now that it's a public document, it's been sent to us, the rest of the public knows what people are taking the time to write to us.
It seems to me like the idea of putting it in the minutes will take care of that. I agree though with Seth, we've tried as much as we can just to put a link there so that you don't have to have every comment completely written out. With a new website, I'm not sure how that all fits in, but I think it would make it easier on us. You know, we may go back and reference the minutes sometime in the future, and then anybody that's curious about what the other public comments were written, you know, they don't necessarily need to hear it during the meeting itself. They've made their comment or had their opportunity to make their comment. So
I think there it should be a link in the minutes to the written public comments. You should have to go look at them.
Technically, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it is. But similarly, if you want to hear what somebody said in public comment, you have to link and go watch the video. Mm-hmm. It's not, those words aren't verbatim in the minutes, so I would treat them the same.
Yeah, so if you've looked at what John was just mentioning to me, the page where you get the packet agenda and things like that is a new page. John's going to bring it up. So this is what it looks like now, and there's a download function where you can download the agenda. One of the things we may look at is an ability to download the public comments of that meeting. Right. And so, and if we do that, then maybe we add, at the end of the minutes for the meeting, we can add, or maybe more appropriately, during the public comment section of the meeting in the minutes, we can add the hyperlink there to these other documents. So they're there, but it's not bulking up your packet, but they are available if whoever wants to read them. Part of this is we haven't put I didn't put any kind of limit. I didn't recommend any limit on the amount. And so I don't think our current form allows you to put attachments, so someone can't just attach a 500-page PDF. But if they wanted to copy and paste it all in there, they could. Again, maybe the last thing I would say is, again, if someone, let's say, misses the noon deadline, the reason we have that is there needs to be some kind of cutoff. There is, what we would encourage them to do is, if it's important for this meeting, you still have the opportunity to come or send someone with your written comments to deliver them to the council during the meeting.
Or get on the Zoom.
Except you have to register for that early too.
What's the deadline to register?
It's noon for both.
Noon.
The main reason we want the registration on Zoom is so that we have a heads up, so we're looking for them, and B, if they're registering and we know who they are, we're not worried. If it's some anonymous person, they still have a right to provide comment, but we're going to have the button ready to shut down the meeting quickly if they start spouting racist comments or other things like that, which is what happened in Cannon Beach. So it just gives us a heads up as to whether or not how prepared we need to be for that kind of a issue to come up.
Heidi, do you have anything? I haven't heard from you.
I like the idea of having the link. So the video and the written comments are accessed the same way. That makes the most sense to me. The noon deadline bothers me a little bit. I wish we could make it a little later in the day, but.
So I will say this, I think when I originally drafted this, well, I think the new deadline was already there, right? So I didn't change anything.
It was in the 2022
Right.
policy.
We might have had two.
Okay. I don't think I changed anything. That being said, it was after drafting this, talking with John and Kim, came to the realization that we can cut out the middle person of the recorder and have them go directly to you. So if that's the case, then we could probably change. I'm trying to think why there isn't a reason why we couldn't put the cutoff as 5 p.m. and it gets emailed to you. I think the only thing there would be if you as a council have enough time to receive it and read it prior to the meeting. That's the only concern there. If it's not on us to try to push it out to you, and it's not like being read in the meeting or something like that.
I think we need a little time. I mean, when there's been hot topics, we've been trying to catch things right before the meeting.
So I
and
would
it's not-
say whether it's tonight or a different meeting, when you're ready to adopt this, make that change. I would request that we keep the registration for Zoom the same, so we have adequate time to prepare if there are potential issues there. But that seems to be a much rare occurrence that people want to use that than the written comments. And to be honest, I think on the staff side, we were having more issues with inconsistencies with the written and not the other one. So that's really what we're hoping to fix at this meeting.
One quick clarification, the easy thing to get copied to all of you is when they use the web form. So an email to public comment, that doesn't go to everyone. It's a little bit more challenging. The web form has a little bit better bones to help spread it out.
And that's
So
why
if we provide the link,
Yeah, of
that's the
course.
easy way.
Yeah.
we've removed from the website the email address where you can just email. And so it is a form now. So we can ask those questions. What meeting
Right.
is this for? And what's the topic, if you will? It just gives you guys a little bit more information. But like John said, that will make it easier for it to go directly to
And
you.
is there an option on there that it isn't for a meeting? I just want to
So that's
I want to send this message to them.
so there is a separate place on the website where you can send messages to the council. That already exists, and that's what we're trying to clarify: is what's a message you're just trying to give your counselor or the council, and what's a public comment in a meeting, because those can overlap, but they're not necessarily. So let's be clear: what are you attempting to do?
So I guess clarify to say, if you want this on the record for this meeting, you
Yes.
have to use this form.
I hate to make things a little more complicated, but I would like those written public comments that are pertinent to a particular topic to have that link in that section of the minutes, as opposed to just the public comments that don't tie to a particular topic.
So
I wasn't understanding that it was going to be a link to the minutes. I thought you were going to put another section that just had the public comment forms.
So the way I was
what I
interpreting
thought it was
this
saying.
is that once after the meeting's concluded and we are working to put the minutes together, as we do now, at the beginning of that section of the minutes, there will be a hyperlink to that point in the meeting, so you can watch or listen to those. we would also put a hyperlink there to a file that contains any written comments that had come in. And so rather than attaching all of them to the end of the minutes, they're linked right there in the public comment section of the minutes.
But
The
then
public-
comments related to a particular
To an agenda
to an
item.
agenda item
Yes.
should be there.
So typically, I'm trying to think.
We
can pull
rarely
it
get
up.
those, but we
I
do on
think-
occasion,
Does
depending what it is.
Mary, do you have the notice? Do you have the language? So I think one of the things you say at the beginning of public comment is it's reserved for any items not on the
Right.
agenda.
Right.
So if it is on the agenda,
Then
we
we
would-
have a section that
Yeah.
says public comments. And
Yeah, and
that's
we-
all
and-
we're
and
saying.
Kim will record
Comments
that, okay.
that
So if
come
we-
in for that should be in that section, not at the.
that makes
public
sense. And
Comments for non-agenda.
That should be, hopefully, if it's not evident
We'll-
enough,
we'll
then
try.
the comment is not very helpful. But yeah, I think that's something easy that we can separate out. And maybe we can even add on there, in addition to a meeting, is it for any particular
Agenda
Well,
item.
it should be,
item?
yeah, whether it's for an agenda item or not.
Yeah. And again, only speaking about public comment, we're not talking about public hearings.
Are you done discussing this? Because I had a comment about this piece.
No, let's. I
Let's-
don't think we've even
we're-
talked
we're
about
getting,
that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
I
make
want
sure
to
we
make
weren't
sure
gonna move
a
on.
slide or two back. Did we get the issue about the difference between public hearings, particularly why we are not worried about the planning commission? Theirs are effectively all public hearings, so that's a different thing.
Does the planning commission only conduct public hearings?
As of right now,
Yes.
yes. If they do have public comment, it would be something noticed on the agenda. The intent here is that they do not have general public comment like we do, where kind of open mic night, if you will, you have 3 minutes to talk about anything you want, which just isn't appropriate for the work that the planning commission's doing, meaning even if you had a concern about, I don't like the way the city's planned, that's a comment for the council, not for the planning commission. That's not in their purview to change how the city's planned. I mean, it is as you assign it to them. And so that's the reason general public comment has been taken out, but they do have, most of the things they do, I think, have public hearings.
So I'm going to take it one step further then. And that is the commissions, committees, and boards that advise the council. Currently, all the ones I've seen do have a spot in the agenda for public comments. I don't know that I've seen that they ever get written public comments, but they do get attendees by Zoom. And so how does that figure into all this? Because the work that they do, and I think people are more specific when they want to give a public comment at a transportation advisory committee or a park advisory committee, et cetera, et cetera. How does that figure into all this?
So the policy that is currently on the books today only pertains to the city council and planning commission. This one will only pertain to the city council. I think a good discussion for this committee, or sorry, for the council is what role do we want our committees to have in taking public comment, or should they be doing? Should theirs be more targeted to items on their agenda, or should it be general comments? I think there's a good discussion to have there. I think my recommendation would be let's tackle that when we do our committees, and that if that's something that we want to apply to everyone, then let's make sure that's included in the overarching ordinance. If different committees and boards have different roles and have different needs for public comment, then we can address those in the individual bylaws, if you will. This one, as written, the intent is just for the city council.
Okay, I understand.
As far as the planning commission only accepts public input through public hearings, am I correct in saying that the planning commission is not going to be going forward setting any policy. They're just going to be doing their quasi-judicial role of having hearings.
Yeah, I think we've gotten away from the planning commission doing policies because what we've been told is those are not enforceable. And so any policies that they want would be recommendations to the city council, and then there would be opportunities for public comment or sometimes a public hearing before you go and adopt those. That's not to say that there aren't opportunities to have public input as they're discussing agenda items. It's just taking away the ability for talk about anything you want. Come to the council for that, come to your legislators for that rather than the planning commission.
So the citizens that want to give input to the planning commission would basically, if it's not an agenda item, would come to the city council and give that input going forward.
And then you would be given that direction. To the extent, planning commission is a little different than other committees. The other committees are at your discretion what you want them to do. Planning commission has some statutory rules, so it depends on what that is. But part of this, and part of the reason for this is when we have public comment, like we do at the beginning of the meeting, and we've created a public forum, there are very few things that we can stop them talking about. But a public hearing is very different. It's not the same rules of a public forum where, when it concerns free speech, we can limit it to only those things that pertain to the item. So if the planning commission is having a hearing on an application for a new development and someone wants to come spout racist things for 3 minutes, they can be shut down because it's not on topic. Whereas public comment that's general, our hands are much more tied and we have to be a lot more allowing than we would maybe want to be. And so that's another reason why for the planning commission especially, we want to keep it to just public hearings, which is so it's on topic to what they're doing. We're not trying to take away public involvement. It's more about redirecting it to the proper body. We don't want the planning commission acting as legislators either in trying to create or be the voice of the people on pushing an item or something like that. That's the legislative authority of the council, and that's where we want the comments to come.
Okay. All right. You have some interesting ideas about how we are going to do public comment.
Yeah. So this is just while we were bringing this up, this has been brought up to me several times by many counselors, and I can see the frustration when a quick answer could go a long way to a comment, and sometimes we allow it, sometimes we don't. But also, we don't necessarily want to open up a can of worms and like it says brief responses. Well, someone may want to be less brief than others. I don't know. So I'm trying to find a middle ground so that the council can be more responsive. I think it's more responsive in a way that I think some of you want to be more responsive, but this is really just something, if you think this fits well, kind of throwing it out there for your consideration. So it's really what you think has been working well, what hasn't been working well, and does this improve the meeting, or do you think this would detract from the meeting? That's your call.
I would say the other reason this is useful that isn't on here is the public feels heard sometimes when we respond and we say, hey, we understand that concern, we're working on it.
And I made several notes here. I don't know if I can keep track of them or not, but the idea that everything has to come through me, including if a counselor wants to make a response, you get my attention first, and then I allow you to make that response or whatever the comment is. Now, I have taken liberties occasionally and done that and said, city manager, could you respond to that, or we're working on it, or whatever. I do like the idea that whoever's standing there is getting some feedback right then. Some of the things that you put down there, councilors shall or will not engage in discussion or take action on items raised during public comment at the same meeting. If this is in the same item that we are taking public comment for, the whole plan is we're going to take comment on that, and we're going to make a decision.
Maybe that's some clarification.
Yeah,
For the policy,
that's all I'm saying is
yeah.
that
This is intended for the public comment section at the beginning of the meeting, not for individual
General
items.
versus specific.
right. And waiting, or possibly waiting until the end of all public comments before you ever go back, then that kind of makes the attitude calm down maybe a little bit, which is a good idea. Although there is and it's kind of out of order here, at the conclusion of all public comments, that paragraph, but the next paragraph says, after any individual's public comment. So are we talking about that, after an individual, allowing some kind of counselor, again, through the chair, to ask a question specifically about that one without having to call that person back up again? I'm just saying, here's things we need to clarify. I think.
Sorry, I missed that. I missed that.
I think it's a good idea, and maybe it makes people stay a little longer. They can't just storm out if they're upset. But I kind of like the idea, unless you want to actually have a clarification with that person right then.
I think it's valuable to put something like that in the little blurb that the mayor states
once
to
we
tell
decide
people
what
that
it would be,
we're not
yeah.
going to directly engage in a conversation. We're here to listen to you. We may or may not respond at this meeting or a future meeting to your comments.
Or we may have clarifying
We
questions.
may
Right, yeah.
respond after all public comments are received.
Right.
If the comment is that important, they can wait to the end to hear the
I
answer.
would hope so they would, yeah.
I agree.
At least the end of that section. Now, when we are having not a public hearing, but public comments, for instance, on this resolution, if there was somebody out there that wanted to talk to us, we're generally a lot more free in that situation than we are at the kind of items not on the agenda type. And so I think, our comment policy here ought to make it very clear that, almost all of this is conduct during the open comment period that we generally hold at the beginning of the meeting.
Right.
We treat public comment during a specific agenda item almost like a public hearing. We just call it comments because it's not a quasi-judicial type thing. Unless it is.
Maybe we call it public input, so that you have a different term.
Well, as long as it's in a separate section, I think we'll know. But maybe we just make a differentiation somewhere for when it's on a specific agenda item, because that won't be anything that's probably directed individually to any of us, and it's generally a more calm thing. Not necessarily, but.
So if it's the beginning of the public comment section at the beginning of the meeting, and a counselor wants to ask a question, do you want those to come to you first? Is that what you're thinking
think
about?
I can trust you all to follow the rules. Make it very short and very simple clarification. It'll take practice because we haven't done it.
Right.
But yes, it should come to me as the chair. I mean, we even have something in there that says the comments are be directed at me,
Right.
no matter what the subject is.
And so let's say Councilor Binnicker has a follow-up response or something. It's not that you're giving that response to the mayor to make. You're just indicating to him that you would like to say something, and then you have the opportunity to give your brief response or clarification or whatever.
Have we ever entertained lights or any kind of button to designate when we want to speak? Am I bringing up something funny?
I'm
It,
just
it would be,
picturing-
it would be nice to know
I've-
what we're supposed,
you know,
what we should
I've-
say. Is it point of order? Is it?
Yeah, because I've tripped over people, interrupted people. I feel like
Yep.
it would be really nice to have something.
I think it's a good idea.
The one thing I will say is
Easy
you
button.
either need an automated system or John's going to have to play handiwork with on and off. And so we can look at it. I don't know if it'll be worth
Those will
the.
fall
There's
over.
just lights
What
on
we
and
do with
off.
some other
Stop
organizations.
lights.
There, it wouldn't have to be very
Usually it's like
fancy.
but there's like built-in rules that only one can be on at a time, or
I mean, I'm not asking us to be that sophisticated.
I thought
but,
that's what you were like.
but no.
I feel it's kind of up
Let's
to the
try
mayor.
it first without.
I
having
feel it's
go
up to
that
the
way.
mayor to kind of guide that conversation along as opposed to have a lighting system, but it's a good idea. I do have a comment. I'm in favor of all of this for all the reasons that have been mentioned, but also because what happens a lot of times is there's a heated comment period, and then we are not able to respond until sometimes 3 hours later at 9 p.m. And so what happens is the public never gets our feedback. We don't have any ability to dialogue with the public, and they're in some cases the meetings are short and they're still here, but in most cases the meetings are very long and nobody's here to listen to our comments at the end of the meeting. So I think this is critical to have some mechanism where we can give feedback when it's absolutely necessary, not all the time, but sometimes.
I agree.
Was this something that came out of what you saw on like your city manager listserv, or
No,
just did some research, or
I
call
think it's-
all out of your head?
I think it's just something I've been thinking about it through
Yeah.
years of seeing counselors squirming, like I really want to say
Yeah.
something, but this isn't the time, and like there's got to be a better way. And so just thinking
Well, it would
about
be
it.
interesting to see whether there are other councils that are doing it this way.
So I will say I shouldn't say this, but the previous city I worked for, their council didn't like doing their comments at the end of the meeting because there was less public there and they wanted the public to hear all about the things they were doing. And so they moved it to the beginning of the meeting, and that turned into, with only 6 elected officials, that ended up taking an hour at the beginning of every meeting because they had an audience and there was no end of things they could talk about. And so there are other ways to do it that I wouldn't encourage.
Yeah. So I do have a question on this section called counselor engagement. I don't think I understand what the sentence means. Members of the governing body, that's us, may discuss written public comments using the same procedure as for in-person comments. What does that mean?
So I think that would be, we've just been talking about when you can, the procedure for responding to the comments. We've talked about waiting till after all the public comments and then saying, Mayor, I'd like to say something. So
okay.
if, this doesn't happen often, but let's say you did get a written comment, you guys are all really wanting to say something or clarify, say, Mayor, and then you could just say, we received the written comment from so-and-so, and I just need to say, so it would, the
understand now.
rebuttal, clarification, whatever you want to do would just follow the same rules.
Okay. And is there any place in here where we specifically address accessibility for anyone who's unable to speak? They want, maybe they're for a variety of reasons, or they have a disability, or I'm going to say they don't speak English.
So the second to last point here under accessibility says individuals with disabilities who need alternative methods to submit public comments should contact the city recorder for assistance. I think it would be a good idea to add something about language barriers. I hadn't considered that. I think what we're trying to do is not get too specific to what the disability is, because whatever it is, it may be a different accommodation needed. So, for example, they want to provide public comment, but they are hearing impaired. If they notify us ahead of time, we can help them be set up so they can, with the different accommodations we have, so they can better participate in the meeting. And so I actually like the idea of adding, same with language. Maybe we can use some Google Translate or have some other things available, but at least it's not in the moment, but ahead of time, and we can prepare whatever is needed for that comment.
And just like every place else, wherever we say contact somebody or do something online, we need to give a link or a phone number.
Yeah, so what I anticipate is this will be the policy you adopt, but we will have instructions on the website on where, so our goal is once you do approve a final policy, we'll take that and go amend the page where that's all done and provide all the necessary information and the specifics on how to do this, that.
And that's where the 2022 public comment administrative process and policy, I feel that it's very friendly and it's very helpful. And I think you can.
Well, I think, and that's the goal for, realistically, I think people are going to find the web page with the instructions and be using that more often than the formal policy. So these are the rules which govern the outreach, the public engagement, and that side of it. But that's just maybe a preference in my mind.
Okay, I think we've hashed this out pretty good. Let's, Spencer, could you revise, put in the things, fix the indentations, and create the right order, and send it out to us again, and we will review it for our next council meeting. I think on the whole, this is a good step. And
You want to make a motion with each of the items you want amended?
No.
Okay. We'll do the work.
particularly, I mean, not your fault, but we only have seen this today, so
Apologize for
we like to have a little more time to think about it. Okay, oops. Moving on to the next item.
Oh, shoot.
We have ordinance 2025-06, amending chapter 102 regarding our camping ordinance. Spencer.
Mayor and council, this was again on our to-do list. A little background and what we're trying to accomplish. So Seaside adopted our first camping policy back in 2022 after extensive public outreach and input. I didn't have in here our first camping ordinance because I think we've had something on the books for a long time, but when it comes to the overlap between camping and people experiencing homelessness, there's not a clean line of when changes have been made addressing some of those issues. And so, but we've had a camping ordinance for a long time and a camping policy more recently. The original ordinance and then the updated one reflect the evolving experiences that are evolving legal requirements that have happened in recent years. And so we were trying to stay current with that. Again, last ordinance was developed after lots of public input, and we have more learned experience since that time. And then the main thing I wanted to convey is that the current update is modeled after Medford's ordinance, which is held up to court challenges. The main purpose as to why we wanted to update the ordinance was to define and establish camp. That being said, Medford's defined that. It was actually one of the few city ordinances that did define it. So for as much as the League of Oregon Cities has been encouraging cities to define it. I could only find one city that's defined it. And so, however, in reviewing Medford's ordinance, there was enough good information there that I felt it would be a good thing to tackle a little bit more at the same time while we're making the other change. So expanded scope, it regulates not just camping, but also lying and sleeping on public and private property. Again, that really goes to some of the legal languages, as some of these things have been contested in courts and things like that. That's some of the language they've used. That being said, Councilor McVeigh brings up a good point, and I can talk a little bit more to that. But there's some probably some edits that are needed. It clarifies some of the enforcement boundaries and broadens covered activities.
Could I suggest that just like you have a definition for camping in the ordinance, you put in a definition for lying and sleeping?
Also near.
I think we can do that if we
If you
choose to keep
retain
that language.
those words, yes.
So again, the state regulations on this saying that any restrictions must be objectively reasonable, but they did not define what that is. So it's left up to the cities and ultimately to the court's interpretation. One of the reasons we want to use Medford's is it was challenged, and the judge ruled that it was reasonably, objectively reasonable. Unlike, say, some other cities whose ordinances were challenged and they were found to not meet the standards. And so we're going with the better policy, not the ones that lost in court.
But that's also with the recognition that they were different courts and different judges.
True. So that,
So we have to
that will
keep
have to go
that
through the
in
appeals
mind.
process. However, I think the one that lost, they were on the record saying all the things they shouldn't be
Right.
saying.
Exactly.
Just came back to bite them a little bit. Again, enforcement can only occur when adequate shelter is available. And in our case, where the city doesn't operate an actual shelter, we've chosen a time, place, and manner restriction and designated the proper time, place, and location for individuals to camp. Protects residents and camp users from arbitrary enforcement actions that are legally defensible. So this is the big change. Defines an established camp as a camp that's been present for five or more days. Previously, we had no definition, so it was any camp. And so one of the things our police department in some ways struggled with is they find a camp, they give them a 72-hour notice, they drag all their stuff 100 feet to a new spot, give me another 72-hour notice. So this is saying you have to have been there for 5 days to be considered an established camp. And again, it's helpful that this is one of the provisions that the court said, or at least that particular judge said, was objectively reasonable. So when they've been there for more than 5 days, they are required to follow the 72-hour written notice, which is what we currently do. And the one thing I will say is I believe the ordinance also says that if we don't know how long they've been, if we can't document that they've been there for less than 5 days, then it's presumed that they've been there for 5 days or more. And so the way I look at this is if our officers are doing regular patrols, then they can document this. I walked through this area of the Mill Ponds on Monday. It's now Friday, and there's a camp here. I know I can document that they weren't here on Monday, so we can they can either be cited or more realistically they can be asked to move along now rather than waiting 72 hours.
That was one of my questions, is because the way it's written, if law enforcement officials do not have evidence about the age of a campsite, and my question is, what would be evidence?
How long have you been here?
That could be it.
In lieu of even a person being there.
But I think a log of the activities they've done. I mean, I don't think it needs to get too specific, but there are regular spots, and so I inspected this location, and no camps or whatever notes that they're taking.
And body cams.
Somebody
I think-
calls about it and says, "Hey, there's a new camp at this location."
Yeah, I think likely body cams are only activated if they're
Talking to somebody.
yeah, if they're
Okay.
involved in something. I'm sure Chief can speak more to that.
Well, if they're doing a loop, they're going to know if someone's been there for a long time or they just showed up. I mean, if they're
Yeah.
checking the regular spots.
Yeah.
I think this is a great place to start.
It is. It is.
There's also on here that social service agencies are notified for outreach, and this is something that was also in the law, and I think we're doing that. I think we're working closely with CCA. However, I don't know how strict we've been about. I think the intent here is, hey, we've identified someone. They are going to need to be leaving in 72 hours, putting people on notice so that they can respond and see if there's help that they can provide. That's in the law. I think that as I think about that, I think we're small enough that these aren't unknowns or something like that. I could see where if you're in a larger city and there's lots of services available and no one knows about this person where this is helpful, I think we will go through this process of notifying CCA. We've given this notice just so it's on your radar. Likely this person has already been through our camp or something like that in most cases. So I think there's more information known, but let's say there isn't, it's someone new to the community. Then the social service agencies have an opportunity to reach out. Okay, expanded prohibitions, safety protection. So this prohibits camping, lying, and sleeping. And on here it says on playgrounds, sports fields, recreational areas, in flood-prone areas during hazardous weather, in ways that obstruct sidewalks or access public facilities, near schools, childcare facilities, and critical infrastructure, in environmentally sensitive areas, wetlands, riparian zones, aquatic habitats. And says protect public safety in sensitive areas and intended use of public spaces. So kind of coming back to Councillor McVeigh's comment. So in the 15 minutes I had between our meetings, as read into it, I think I have a better response, but there's probably some changes that need to happen. So a lot of this language is what comes from Medford's ordinance. Our ordinance, on the other hand, the existing one, basically lists out all the streets that you can't camp on,
Right.
and then says, and you can only camp in those areas designated in the policy. For the practical side of me, I was kind of like, why are we saying here are all the places you can't, and then saying there's only one place, here's the only place you can? Why are we going to say this is the only place you can? And so I originally didn't want to include either language. But in doing more research, what I discovered is this kind of language does help with enforcement. Mm-hmm. Even if the letter of the law already says they can't camp in these locations, this bolsters our legal position when we need to do so. And so rather than naming individual streets or parks, like our current ordinance does, I did like the way Medford's was worded. So checking Medford's ordinance, I had included it, taken it out, then put some of it back, and looking back, there was some additional part that didn't get put in the back end part. Give me 1 second so I can bring it up. Let's see. So, as Councilor McVeigh pointed out, the wording is either unenforceable or would be difficult to enforce evenly, or is problematic with the basically lying in parks. So as I've thought about that, that would include, technically that could include someone sunbathing on a part of the beach that's in the city. You can't do that, and you can't fall asleep. So there is in the section that we're talking about, let me pull it up. So this is section 102.04, public property. Just for those that are here, section A says general prohibition and exceptions. Camping, lying, or sleeping on public property within the city of Seaside is prohibited except as expressly permitted in accordance with the procedures as set forth in section 102.07, which that reference is incorrect. That's the public noticing section.
It is.
It should be the one before it, which is the location. So that's another thing that needs to be fixed.
I think if you just use camping, the definition up above for camping takes
fine.
care of it.
I think, and that's where ours was. What I want to go back is review some of the guidelines from LOC, because the language in here sounded really familiar in Medford's ordinance, was very familiar to me to what like Patty talked about in her training, which is that we're really trying to govern these activities. So let me do a little more research. It may be that, yes, we just pull it out.
And I think some of what she was referencing would be for those further bullets, lying or sleeping in ways that obstruct sidewalks or access to public facilities, etc. But there's no way that you could say lying or sleeping is prohibited on our park benches, because
So
who do you arrest and who do you not arrest?
So the fourth, I'm looking at the actual language in the ordinance, the fourth point under this, and it kind of says there, but it says, camping, lying, or sleeping is prohibited in any location where such activity would interfere with the intended public use of the property or pose a threat to the public health, safety, or welfare. So let me give you an example. Maybe someone dozes off on the field at Broadway Park. No one cares. It would be different if they were dozing off during a high school football game. That would disrupt the intended purpose of the park. We would definitely want to regulate it then, but if someone just wanted to enjoy being outside and was lying down in the middle of the day when it was open field, I don't think we would have a problem with that. So when I pull up Medford's ordinance, what they have included that came out of ours, which is why ours needs to be fixed. Let me see if I can get their language. Okay. I'll get the exact language here. But basically, they have a section in theirs that talks about these activities are prohibited during the hours that the parks are closed. So if we had a regulation that said our parks are closed for use between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.,
Our sign ordinance, maybe?
no, that would be our park
Because
ordinance.
we don't have signs right now that say that.
Well, what that's not a sign issue. We need a park regulation, and then we can create the signs. But yes, so if we had clearly posted hours of operation, then we would say, yes, you can be sunbathing, you can be lying in the park, you can do whatever you want during the day, but between these hours, the park is closed, and you're not able to do that. And so that's where we got part of Medford's, but not all of it, and so that needs to be revised.
In the section that of our current ordinance that labels all of the places you cannot camp, it's my recollection that the initial ordinance just said, here are the places you can, and it was on advice that we put in all of the places you cannot, because
I remembered it opposite of that. We wanted to put in all the places you couldn't, but you had to put some place where they could. They couldn't just guess what it was.
Having that clarity has come up multiple times across the judicial spectrum, all the way up to and including Supreme Court arguments, that if you leave it so vague as to only include where you cannot you are creating a situation where nobody can figure out where they can.
Right. But
And this
I think
ordinance
the
is very-
opposite would be true as well. If you only say where you can, and you don't tell them you can't do it here and here as well.
As I recall, it's even why some of the ones have been struck down that have been challenged.
So to be clear, this ordinance continues what the previous one does, which says the location where you can is found in the policy. And so it has been and continues to be in policy where the council has designated, in our case, the campsite at the end of Avenue V as the designated spot, and any other location that the city manager designates. So if there is a situation where that night something is needed, a decision can be made without having to come back to the council. So it's very clear in the policy where that location is. When we do get this updated, the ordinance updated, it would be a good idea. In fact, it would make it much more defensible if we have a clear spot on our website that says, here's where you can. It's not just, I don't want to put GPS coordinates. It's here's where you can, here's where you can get more information and things like that.
Right.
Because if we've made it so confusing that they can't find it, that's the same thing as not providing a spot. So that would be our intent. And but basically, especially where we have a new ordinance and a new policy, that's an opportunity to either update the page or correct it. I'm not sure we have a designated spot for that other than that the ordinance and policy are posted online. But like we talked about with the public comment registration, we likely need something that is the easily accessible, easy to understand instructions for those who are interested. At the same time, for those who maybe take issue with the camping program, it's clear where they can get the information.
I appreciate that you put a lot of whereases in the very beginning.
I took
Yes.
Patty's.
Yes.
I mean,
You took it, yes.
She said
Good
do 5
advice.
pages. I tried my best and got 2.5.
That was good.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I have a little bit more
Okay.
before we move on. On this slide particularly, can you quantify to any degree of specificity what does near schools mean?
So this is just a
Talking-
slide. I defer to the policy, so let me bring that up.
Because I can't find it in the definitions, nor anywhere else in here what that would be quantified as. Is it 200 feet? Is it 2 blocks? Is it 2 car lengths? What are we looking at? Because, and is that near schools the same as near childcare facilities or near critical infrastructure, all of which require different off-the-cuff buffer zones before they're being affected by somebody being around them? Or whether or not what that person who is around them is able to visually take in even.
So, I actually thought at one point there was, and that might have been when, as originally drafted and then removed and then put back in, because I was sure that there was a number of feet distance requirement. So right now, you're right. It just says
That's an opening to a
near
challenge.
schools.
A successful
is.
one at that.
Yeah, I will say this. We're only going to be challenged to the extent that we cite people. We have found citing people doesn't do anything. They don't generally come to court or pay their fines. And so more often than not, we're using this to get compliance rather than write citations. But in either case, we need to have it, in fairness to the officer and to the individual, it needs to be clear and objective.
Do we have at this time more designated camping spots where it's okay, or even the same amount as the number of homeless people that we have in our city at any given night?
No, there are definitely more individuals experiencing homelessness in the
So-
city than there are available camping spots.
So realistically, we couldn't actually enforce it anyways.
Yes, because it's available, and most of the individuals have
The
not
camp is
requested
full.
it. No, we have overflow accommodations, and
There's
we
3
use those.
spots, and when I was there Monday,
full.
Tuesday, they were all 3 full.
Yeah, we have not had to turn anyone away yet.
Because they haven't come because it's full.
I can't.
We don't know why they
I mean,
haven't.
we don't
If
know
they don't-
why,
if they-
but
If they don't come and request it, I don't know how we can.
if it's full, whether we're turning them away or not,
There isn't a sign that says no vacancy or full or anything like that.
hang on. If it's full, whether they come and try for it or not, it is full, yes?
No, because we
No,
can designate
it's-
any spot. So someone comes in, we're full. I always have the option of saying, we're going to designate this for tonight. This is going to be a designated spot. So we have options available to us.
Okay.
So I have a couple of questions. Just the 102.03, non-residential private property. That's been there forever. Has that been used at all?
It's never been used.
Okay.
I didn't take it out.
And I'm not suggesting.
Yeah, only because that really wasn't the intent here. And I guess I suppose if there was an organization, let's say there was a church or a commercial
Right.
facility that wanted to host homeless people in their parking lot, it hasn't happened yet, but yeah, it would probably be a good idea. They're at least registered with the program.
So that's
They're allowed
referring
do
to
that.
anything but residential property. You do have the ability to camp on it if you get a permit.
On non-residential, yes.
And follow all the rules. Just one thing, I'm having a tough time finding the near schools and childcare facilities in the actual ordinance.
So it is in the staff report and in the whereas statements, and at one point it was in a draft of
Okay.
the
It
ordinance.
should probably be
and
there.
that part got scrubbed out.
Well, I don't know if it needs to be or not.
Well, if you're going to enforce it, if you're going
But
to
we've
use
got
it,
other
you-
items. Item number B4 covers just about anything I could think of, including playgrounds.
Well, again, the reality is none of the items in B are needed if it says it's only allowed in the permitted locations. So
Right.
this is just extra
Right.
reinforcing language, and so we will update that.
So if it's less specific, then it seems to me like it still covers.
Yeah, I think I would look at this as, in some ways, in addition to this being a regulatory instrument, it's a communication instrument. So not only we're saying you can't sleep here, but giving a little bit more of
We're given a
maybe
reason.
why or
Yeah,
reasons,
sure.
and, things like that. And again, we have the rules by saying this is the only location,
Yeah.
but this gives better context, better meaning behind it, I guess.
Okay.
I think if we put something in a whereas and then don't put anything in there that refers to the reason why you're doing something, we're going to tell you that we're doing it because of this, but then we're not going to do anything about the reason we're doing it.
Except for that, we have not designated a location near schools, so we are consistent. But yes, I agree. So
And yet potentially we have near critical infrastructure, depending on what that near quantifies as. Given that the ponds are
I think
right
that's
there.
up to our interpretation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, same thing on this one. You're going to go back and make a few
Yeah, I think
changes?
I would love to hear if there is anything else that we should be
Yeah.
considering. That's what we'd want to know.
If you have more you want to give sometime between
And I
now
will say,
and
I
the
had
next
some.
meeting.
I have some other minor changes that came from Officer Knock.
Okay.
Nothing that would have prohibited us from doing a first reading. They were small, minor enough, but I think there's enough here that we'll make those edits and come back again. The only critical thing is the ability to enforce the unsanctioned camps that have been there for less than 5 days, but we've been, 3.5 years without that, so we can wait until it's done.
Right. Okay. Well, we got one out of the 3 items under new business covered, and substantial discussion on the other 2. So, moving along pretty well, I'd say. Okay, moving on to comments from city staff. Anybody?
Is there any
We made the police chief wait.
It's early.
We'll
It's
start the
early.
3-minute clock.
Thank you. I don't think I'll take that much time, but thanks for having me. I just wanted to give you a couple of little quick updates. Officer Balcom is graduating the academy this Friday, so I'll be heading that way to give him some congratulations, and then we'll get him back into our FTEP training, field training program, and hopefully get him solo here shortly. We're about ready, if not already done a job offer for the next candidate, but we're ready to hire another one here real soon to fill our one vacancy. We spent a lot of money here recently on our records management system. The last month or so has been busy with getting all the officers and staff in the county up to speed and trained on how to use that. And when I say up to speed, I'll be lucky to be able to log into that thing when we get it. But I just wanted to mention, well, there's several people around the county that are working very hard, but specifically for the City of Seaside, Mitch Brown, our communications manager, has been doing a lot of work on this. And so thank you to Mitch for working on that project. It's been great. Lieutenant Knight was invited by the police academy basically to instruct and facilitate a leadership course the next 3 days. So he's headed that one. He's probably there by now, but he'll be gone the next 3 days. He'd attended this course. I had attended this course years ago, and he went to the facilitator course, and then they ran into a little bit of staffing this week, it sounds like. So they kind of did a last minute, would you mind coming in and instructing? And so we're sending him over there to help out with a leadership course. So that's a lot of different agencies around the state that are sending sergeants or lieutenants or up and coming supervisor candidates to this course. It's really a good one for them. And then finally, just real quick, as a former sailor, happy birthday, 250 to the U.S. Navy, and looking forward to this next year for America's 250th birthday, and see what kind of celebrations around the states we'll be seeing for that. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chief. Okay.
Thanks for having me. I figured if I'm here, I'll say a few things that we're doing at the library. So starting tomorrow, we are launching the virtual pumpkin carving contest. So this will be live from the 14th through the 29th. You can submit your digital photos of your carved or painted or drawn upon pumpkin. Please do not bring your pumpkin to the library. Basically what we're asking. But take a picture, send it off to our youth services librarian, Marion Rose. All that information is on the top of our webpage, seasidelibrary.org. And there, of course, are prizes. And as always, all ages are encouraged to participate. And then coming up in November, the art committee will be putting on the art show for November and December, and it'll be quilts, and that always is a beautiful addition to the community room. And we've also been really lucky to be able to add a musical story time. So next Wednesday at 10:30, you know, we always have the Thursday story time that's themed and provided by our staff. On Wednesday, we are adding a music story time, and this is hosted by the North Oregon Coast Symphony, and we're hoping to make this a regular thing, so maybe once a month. So this is our first one. We're super excited about it. Little tiny instruments, little tiny people, lots of noise. It's going to be great. So thanks.
Okay. Thank you. John?
Okay. I got a couple things, but we kind of already touched on it, but I did want to point out when you're thinking about, when you're on our new website now, and specific to this page that we kind of already briefly touched on, but links to any of the YouTube meetings are now quickly kind of one click away from all these different, and as we get more meetings up, so Community Center Commission has now started getting their meetings online. We have Library Board has most of their meetings probably for the past year and a half. So anyway, just a really good tool, and we were talking about whether comments could go on there. There's a lot of tools from an archiving standpoint. And if there's concern over, hey, where's it beyond 2025, this document center has meetings for city council meetings all the way back to 2007. So if you're really into that, you got a long ways back. You can go and look at those things. We have one position, Chief mentioned, that we're getting ready to do, we've written a conditional offer to a police officer. And then we also have an open position with our wastewater division within Public Works. That's a full-time position. And that'll stay posted until November 9th. So if you know or you're hearing this, we encourage you to apply there. I appreciated the ability to go to the League of Oregon Cities conference with you all, or most of all of you. And I took 3 like quick kind of takeaways that were really kind of profound for me. And when we had the conversation, the keynote, the guy that spoke about generations, and specific there was, I think I wrote this down and understood this right, that government is one of 2 industries that serves all generations. And I think that's really important as we think about what we do and the challenges that it presents, is that we're trying to reach everyone. We don't have specifics, and that can be challenging sometimes, but it's a good challenge. And then in terms of on legacy leadership, a really good speaker on that, a reminder to block out time to think into the future and not just the short-term stuff. And that can be hard when we're reactive to so many things, but I think it was a good reminder. And then the final one, which I thought was appropriate given all the conversation around it tonight, was on a session on the next wave of civic engagement, and it was specific to really pay close attention to how you're handling public comment and what you're doing with that. So kudos to you all for tackling that topic well tonight. Final thing I have is we have a new employee at City Hall, Zakia Mitchell. She goes by Zach. So we have 2 Zachs in our office now. She is our court clerk and HR support specialist. So happy to have City Hall fully staffed again. So thank you.
One thing that's new on the website too is you can sign up for alerts from basically anything, including what comes from any committee. The only problem I was going to mention is that when you get the text alert, it just says agenda. It doesn't say which one it's for. So it'd be nice if that could somehow be changed.
Yeah, I noticed that when I got the email as well. So I think we got a lot of. Thank you for mentioning that. There's more there. These alerts are good. If you're noticing things, feel free to shoot an email. Say, hey, this needs to be fixed.
No, that's good.
We can't fix it. I mean, it was a quick changeover, and we're fixing things as we can. But sometimes we don't know about them, and so we experience them.
And you mentioned web links are broken in some places and that. So as you find those, pass them on.
Yep, for sure.
But it's a step in the right direction, and appreciate all the work you're doing. I bring that up partially too is because I just reiterate that if you want me to come to one of the committees that you are the liaison for, go ahead and invite me. I do generally watch or read quickly through. I will use the fast forward or the transcript on the YouTube a lot. And you can get through a meeting pretty quick that way. But if you really want me there for some reason, okay, I will try to make it. Spencer.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. One is I'm getting the sense that the council would be okay, even though you have not adopted the public comment policy, that we'd be fine to implement the automatic emails to you of written comments. We can probably do that in about 2
We can
minutes.
try.
So we will start that, because I think that's just one less bottleneck. So a couple other things. I've been working with our finance director, Zach Fleck, on a format for a regular monthly financial report. It may be something, what I'm considering is that in lieu of the consent agenda having the list of checks, we would have the monthly financial report that includes the check runs on there. So that's would be a part of the packet once a month. We'll see how you want to implement it, but we'll get you a copy of that as soon as we think we have the final draft ready. The new system is coming along. It's now our department heads and other staff have the ability to manage their budgets, and so that's a good thing. And we want the council to get those regular updates and be able to, have a set of eyes on the city's finances. I mentioned already we had a good meeting today on the North 40, so we're getting excited about that. And then the last thing I was going to bring up was, as we talked about our council priorities, kind of what we want to see at the next meeting. The one caveat I have to add is I will not be at the next meeting because the ICMA conference is happening at the same time, and I will be on Eastern time, and so I plan on being sleeping by the time we are in our council meeting. So, with that in mind, we'll work with the mayor and council president on the agenda. But if there are items that would benefit from my presence, we'll probably want to wait on that. Or if they're really controversial, feel free to have John tackle them. That's all I had.
Okay. Heidi.
First, I'm going to scold Jennifer because she did not mention that in December, you're having the first how-to. December 6th. And they're looking for volunteers to come and do brief presentations on how to do a task, whether it's tying a tie or what's another one? Wrap a present. Anything like that. You need more volunteers for that. And they can email Jennifer. Wow. We had a good meeting of the library board the other day. Lots of good things are happening. And went to my first LOC conference. Got a lot of pens. Was surprised at how excited I got over an ice cream sandwich. But it was fun. There was some classes I thought were really, really well, and some I thought could have been an email. But overall, I was impressed with the conference and the turnout. That's it.
Just in case you're not aware, I think you probably all got the email that said any of the sessions, any kind of slides that they had are now available, and you can download them even if you didn't go to them. So gives you good reference to go back and look at the ones you didn't attend. My last comment will be that, contrary to the opinion of some, Portland is not a war zone, and I never felt in danger. That's for sure. David?
The LSE conference I thought was very useful. Some of the feedback that I'll be giving is that the roundtable sessions, the networking sessions, I thought were the most valuable part of it, being able to talk to other cities about the issues that they're dealing with and how they're dealing with them. We were given a list of about 10 questions that we could discuss, given about 10 minutes for 3 of them, and that was about it. And I thought that would be so much more useful for the cities to be able to have more time in a session like that. Also about Portland, I used to work downtown in Old Town in Portland, and what I found wasn't a war zone in Portland. I found a ghost town in Portland. There was so much that was missing. There were very few people walking around throughout the day, different times that I would go out. The numbers just weren't there. and the amount of businesses and retail establishments were just not there. And rather than worrying about a little demonstration happening south of downtown, Portland needs to be focused on figuring out how to build Portland back. That's all.
Thank you. Dina?
I too found the LOC conference time well spent. I thought that both the keynote address and the ending keynote address were very valuable in making us think about the past, the present, and the future. I also went to the legacy session, and he presented us with it's called the Athenian Oath, and this is what in ancient Athens they would take this oath when they became, I guess, city councilors, whatever they called them then. I wanted to share it with you. I think it's something that is good for us to think about maybe adding as an oath for ourselves. We will never bring disgrace on this our city by an act of dishonesty or cowardice. We will fight for the ideals and sacred things of the city, both alone and with many. We will revere and obey the city's laws and do our best to incite a like reverence and respect in those above us who are prone to annul them or set them at naught. We will strive unceasingly to quicken the public sense of civic duty. Thus, in all ways, we will transmit this city not only, not less, but greater and more beautiful than it was transmitted to us.
Thank you. James?
I agree that LOC was an incredible time. I took the opportunity while we were there to not only explore the city via their amazing transit system, but each night I took the time to go out looking for what is here, what is in Portland. I hadn't spent much time there in the last 20 years. I wanted to see what's changed. No bombed out buildings, but lots of really amazing food. I did come across one small protest. It was about 6 people protesting for peace in the Middle East. And they were singing, and there was a little bit of dancing and some flag waving, and otherwise it was very quiet out, much like David said. It was kind of a ghost town. The best thing I can say about it was there was some really amazing food, y'all. and like, we're talking award-winning, literally, food there. If you have the opportunity, great place to visit. Did spend time in actual LOC stuff too, not just wandering around the city. There were some great demonstrations out at the airport where the fire department there showed how they deal with planes that come in that may burst into flames, because that's the thing that happens. And getting to see them in action while hearing about, okay, this is where the ICE facility is here, and this is who's coming in and how we deal with dignitaries and all of this. It was a very educational time, and I really appreciated it. I learned literally every day that I was there something new, and that is fantastic.
Did you see the baby elephant?
I saw the baby elephant, and I saw the baby polar bear.
Chris?
I have a few things. So where did the signs come from at Stepping Stones and the entrance to Stepping Stones?
The actual stepping stone signs themselves?
Yeah.
That CCI put those.
Put those up?
CCA put those together, yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to say thank you to whoever put those up. I think they look nice and professional, and makes a difference there to the entrance. I did get a chance to attend Representative Bonamici. Did I say Bonamici? Did I say her name wrong? Her local leaders town hall for about 30 minutes. I think the participation was very low, probably because of the conference. So there were, actually Seamus was there with me. I think there were maybe 8 of us or so, if that. It was real small. And very quick. There wasn't a lot of time for dialogue about local topics. I'll just put it that way. It was dominated by the government shutdown largely, and that was the discussion. Somebody did ask about the FEMA BIOP and where that's at and if she's following that, and she did say she is talking about that one all the time, and it's at the top of her list. So that was about the only kind of Seaside pertinent news I got out of that. I had a chance last weekend to go to a razor clam dinner at the American Legion. I don't know if anybody else attended, but I will just say it was the best food I've had in a long time. Homemade, all cooked by them. And it occurred to me, you know, they put a lot of effort into it, and all of the money goes to Seaside High School scholarships, all the money that they raise. And just wonderful. Big thank you to all of them who put the time and effort into that event. It occurred to me, there are so many of these things that go on in this city. Fundraising, volunteer, fun things for families. And we could really, this kind of came up a little bit in our workshop. We skirted around it, but we could really use a community type calendar of events like this. I looked a little bit on the website. I know we have kind of the City of Seaside calendar that has our council meetings. Actually, that was a little bit hard to find tonight with the new redesign. Could have been user error, but and then we have the visitors calendar, which is bigger events. So I don't have the answer, just bringing it up as a topic for discussion, that I think there's so many wonderful things going on in the city, and we should do a better job of promoting those local events that are for our residents, and, you know, smaller than the big deals.
Right now, the best one I found is get on the chamber newsletter. Comes out Monday morning, and it's getting longer and longer.
Oh, great.
So that's probably the best.
Okay.
SDDA also puts one out, maybe not quite as long.
I do have a couple items to
one
follow.
more.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, one more real quick.
You gave me the nod.
I know he did. I am gonna start coffee with the counselor, coffee with Chris. It's gonna be, the first one will be Saturday, November 1st at Seaside Golf Course, 9 a.m. So I've got another meeting where I'll give you another reminder before then, but just wanted to say I'm gonna start that up in November.
Great.
Thank you, Seth.
Yeah. My pleasure. Yeah, so I do have a couple items to follow up on John's comment about the different committee meetings on the website. The TAC committee did their first video stream at the last meeting, and so I think that's online. I don't know if it went out live or what, but yeah, so that's the first time it's ever been on video. It was a lot different than just a little audio recording on the table, but we'll get used to it. The surfing and eFoil committee did meet. I think that'll be our final meeting. We got great feedback from everyone. Very lively discussion, actually very heated at sometimes, but I think in the end, we got some good direction and consensus. Our main objective is to create signage for the Cove that talk about rules, etiquette, and safety. So we'll submit some ideas for those and bring those to the council. And then finally, on League of Oregon Cities, my biggest takeaway, and I think I've said this before, and I realize it at every meeting when we're having those small group discussions like David mentioned, is that Seaside is so cutting edge compared to other cities our similar size. We're always leading the discussion on things we're doing, and the other cities are trying to follow. And so I think in a lot of cases, we almost need to bump up to the bigger, the mid-sized cities, because that's the cities we're closest and we're basically the same as in a lot of the things we're doing, because we just do things so progressively. Plus we have a lot more revenue coming in than a small city of 7,000. So it's always great to see that. And every time I get that same feedback when we're having those discussions.
Good.
I have one more.
Sure.
My coffee with the counselor is on Wednesday at 10 o'clock at Bagels by the Sea.
Let's start out with a sad note that our former Mayor Don Larson, who passed away in 2016, his wife passed away on September 25th, Lois Larson. And so that was sad news to get. Lois was a great friend, well after Don was gone. And lighter note, the Chamber of Commerce announced Sadie Mercer as their new executive director, take away the interim. I've been attending lots of board meetings, Cedar Board, Colpac, Northwest Act, one note out of Northwest Act, ODOT, even though they are going to have funding now, they are still mightily struggling. An example from our district, there's 14 open maintenance positions, partially because a lot of people quit when they, didn't know if they're going to have a job. And they're actually allowed to fill 3. Partially because it takes a while. The one they mentioned was being able to drive the big trucks, and you have to have a special license, and it takes a long time to train them, and they just can't do it more than that. And this is statewide. I mentioned during work session the comp plan draft. Jeff's not here, so I'll hopefully not screw anything up. The draft is now on the city website. It's under government planning department, but the easier way to get there is just go to seaside2050.com and you will find it there. It is amazing. Go through and look at it. There will be a survey coming out that will go out to the public, eventually then to the Planning Commission and to us, February, March timeframe. The Ad Hoc Illegal Fireworks Committee had a meeting on 9/29. Our next meeting is a week from tonight. I will publish a recap of what we talked about when I send out the agenda for the next meeting. I don't know if we should mention it or not, if the Government Ethics Commission is listening. We had a very nice lunch for city staff put on. That was amazing. Highly recommend.
That's all allowed.
Highly recommend the caterer. I know them, and boy, they do good work. So you can schedule that more often if you like. I agree with all the comments on the LOC conference. In fact, the Oregon Mayors Association, gets feedback from everything, and the top thing by far is networking. Being able to sit down with, in our case, other mayors and just talking, and being able to share what works, what doesn't. Oh, that you tried that and it didn't work. Okay, thanks. I won't do that. I did have a meeting with the coastal mayors. That generation's keynote was amazing. If you didn't get his slides, they're on the website now, on the LOC link. I attended the land use one. There was a couple actually about bringing back civility, and a couple of the things that I wrote down was don't exaggerate and don't start your talking by attacking. If we could just get away from those two, it'd be great. And you mentioned downtown Portland. I actually worked across the street from the Marriott in that area for about 35 years. And you're right, it's just a ghost town there now. There's actually a couple new buildings that look like they were empty. The restaurant we had dinner at is the only restaurant that's still there from when I retired 12 years ago. Everything else is gone, or perhaps new. Two things that, we had we had 2 proclamations tonight. One that I'm just going to mention, and it's on Thursday, we have the Great Oregon, well, it's more than Oregon, but the Shakeout. This Thursday, which is 10/16/25 at 10:16 a.m., you're encouraged to participate in the Great Shakeout Earthquake Drill. During the drill, everybody should practice drop, cover, and hold on, and be ready to evacuate afterwards. So that means getting down and getting under your chair. Maybe have somebody around if you're like me and you need some help getting back up again. But there's a website you can go to and learn more about that. It's important, though, after the earthquake to make sure you follow your evacuation routes, which you all know, right? And get out quickly and safely, especially given our tsunami risk. Hopefully soon we can start discussing vertical evacuation structures too. But that's not our only risk. We have a lot of other risks, and our city prepares well for those. Our staff does preparation and practicing. The county does as well. We have ham radio operators that do a great job. So just encourage everybody to participate in whatever way they can. The website is shakeout.org if you want to learn more. And it's also more information on the city website if you look under emergency preparedness. And if you haven't, which I'm sure all of you have, make sure you're signed up for Clatsop Alerts. Another proclamation, I didn't make an official one, but this is also, besides Columbus Day, known as Indigenous Peoples Day. And just a little hint, there's a possibility that we're going to be honoring a local person of Clatsop heritage, and I will tell you more about that later. This quote relates to that, though. The strength of indigenous peoples is rooted in their connection to the land, their ancestors, and their stories. And that strength endures and continues to guide all of us. We're adjourned.